Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Man and Pirates, the beginning of the interception of the surgery fruit. Chapter 1, North Sea, Mignon Island. Rocinante staggered on the snow with a small box in his arms. Where he walked, there was a line of footprints and a line of blood. The box in his arms was the devil fruit he had just robbed from the barrelless pirates, and it was also the purpose of his coming here. Luo, wait for me. With the surgery fruit, your platinum lead disease can be cured. Looking at the small box in his arms, Rocinante smiled. In order to treat Luo's platinum lead disease, Rocinante has taken Luo to find a doctor for half a year. This is an incurable disease, and the surgery fruit in his arms is Luo's only hope. Although he was shot by the pirates, compared with the joy of being able to cure Luo's platinum lead disease, these injuries are nothing. That guy ran from this direction, chase him. Hearing the voice of the pursuers behind him, Rocinante's face changed. Just now, he used the power of the silence fruit to eliminate his own voice and stole the operation fruit smoothly, but when he was leaving, he fell because of carelessness. Although he also dealt with the pirates who stayed behind, he was also shot. Listening to the footsteps getting closer and closer, Rocinante dragged his seriously injured body forward. Suddenly, Rocinante slipped and rolled down the snow-covered slope. Even the small wooden box in his arms fell out of his hand, and a peach-like fruit with spiral patterns on the red skin rolled into the snow. A pair of shoes appeared in front of Rocinante, which startled Rocinante. But when he saw the face of the owner of the shoes, he was slightly relieved. The boy in front of him looked about the same age as Luo, and he was not the pirates chasing him. Is this the operation fruit that is said to be worth 5 billion Baileys? Lin picked up the operation fruit in front of him and asked Rocinante. Who are you? How do you know the name of this fruit? Are you also a reserve cadre of the Don Quixote family? When he heard Lin call out the name of the operation fruit, Rocinante's heart, which had just been relaxed, was lifted up again. The operation fruit was traded here and it was top secret. How could this kid in front of him be recognized at a glance? Rocinante's first reaction was that Lin was also a reserve cadre of the family like Buffalo and Luo. But he had been in the Don Quixote family for so long, and only Luo, Baby5 and Buffalo stayed among the 100 children recruited at the beginning. Rocinante didn't remember that there was a boy in front of him in the family. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lin. There is no relationship between me and Doflamingo. The reason why I stayed on this island was for this operation fruit. Without waiting for Rocinante's answer, Lin picked up the operation fruit and took a bite. As rumored, the devil fruit is very unpalatable. Even though Lin had prepared himself mentally, he still felt a dry heave. I finally became a capable person. I finally have the ability to protect myself in this dangerous world. Lin felt the strange changes in his body, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He is not from this world, he is a time traveler. Lin didn't know how he came to the dangerous world of One Piece, and he was not in the East China Sea where the pirates were the weakest, but in the North China Sea where pirate geniuses were born. The most terrible thing is that Lin not only did not have an awakening system, but his body also turned into a 10-year-old child. This is simply the beginning of hell. The Navy of the North China Sea is a high-risk industry, and the effect is too slow, so he doesn't want to join. Practice physical skills and domineering. I don't know any famous teachers. If you want to become stronger quickly, then there is only one way, the devil fruit. In the current North China Sea, only the operation fruit, which is said to be able to perform immortality surgery on people, can catch Lin's eyes. So Lin risked his life to come to Mignon Island to prepare in advance. The process was tortuous, but he finally got the surgery fruit. In order to test the power of the surgery fruit, he looked at Rocinante's wound. You are seriously injured, let me treat you. Lin opened his palm, and a semicircular spherical field enveloped Rocinante. Lin took out a fruit knife, and he roughly picked out the bullet that hit Rocinante. Rocinante looked at everything in front of him quietly, and he didn't feel any pain at all. This process took less than a minute, but Lin actually consumed nearly 1/3 of his physical strength. I don't know if it's because my physique is too weak or the surgery fruit consumes too much physical strength. If I can't make up for the shortcoming of physique as soon as possible, I will always be a real man for 3 minutes. As a tough guy, Lin En can't tolerate such a thing happening to him. Is this the ability of the surgery fruit? You have actually obtained the ability of the surgery fruit. Rocinante looked at his hastily treated wound with a complicated look, and he didn't know what attitude he should use to treat Lin En. Originally, this fruit was prepared for Luo to save his life, but he didn't expect it to be intercepted by the boy in front of him. Lin En didn't care what Rocinante was thinking. With his current injuries, he might bleed to death before he returned to Luo's side. Lin En, can you help me save another person? This operation was originally prepared for him. Now he is dying. Only the surgery fruit can save him. While Lin En was thinking, Rocinante remembered Luo, who was hidden by him. Luo had already fallen ill when he arrived at Mignon Island. In order not to affect his actions, Rocinante hid Luo. Luo was the only survivor of the white town of Frevens. The platinum and lead in his body had accumulated to a terrifying level. If Luo's platinum and lead disease was not treated, Luo would die on Mignon Island. Lead the way, Lin En said to Rocinante. He had just obtained the operation fruit and was now in need of someone to practice with. Haha, I finally found you. Hand over the operation fruit. Lin En and Rocinante had just come to a fork in the road when they met the pirates who had previously chased Rocinante Barreras pirates. Oops, Rocinante's face changed. He was ready to pull out his gun to fight back, but he didn't know where his gun had fallen. Rocinante was ready to hold the pirates back so that Lin En could save Luo, but he found that Lin En had appeared behind the two pirates as if teleporting. You talk too much. Lin En put away the fruit knife in his hand, and the bodies of the two pirates were instantly divided into 36 pieces. The pirates screamed when they saw themselves being dismembered in an instant. They did not feel pain or bleeding, and they had lost their fighting power. He was able to develop the surgery fruit to this extent just after eating the surgery fruit. Could it be that the surgery fruit chose him? Rocinante thought that Lin En was just lucky, but after seeing this scene, he no longer thought so. He saw Lin En eat the surgery fruit with his own eyes, and he was able to apply the surgery fruit to this extent in less than half an hour, which shows that Lin En and the fruit are extremely compatible. Lin, I'll leave Luo to you. Rocinante carried Luo out of a box. Luo had fallen into a coma. His skin was as white as the snow around him, but his face turned red because of the fever. Let me try. Lin was not a doctor. All he could do was use the power of the surgery fruit to separate the platinum and lead from Luo's body. There is so much platinum and lead accumulated in his body. Through the surgery space, Lin found several lumps in Luo's body, especially in the liver, where the platinum and lead almost completely covered his liver. Luo is still alive now, and this is entirely supported by his will. Lin used the surgery space directly, and he began to peel off the platinum and lead from Luo's body. Because he was in the surgery space, Luo could not feel the pain. As the platinum and lead were peeled off from his body, Luo's body temperature dropped. This is the bug of the devil fruit. The terminal illness that countless famous doctors were helpless to treat was easily solved under the surgery fruit. When the body temperature dropped, Luo also woke up in a daze. He felt that his body had never been so relaxed as it was now. Mr. Corazon, it's great to see you again. Luo saw Corazon as soon as he opened his eyes, and smiled at Rocinante. Congratulations, Luo, from today on, you will no longer suffer from platinum-lead disease. Rocinante smiled as he saw Luo recover. He was wearing a funny clown makeup, but his smile now looked particularly gentle. You saved me again, Mr. Corazon. Luo's tone was full of gratitude to Corazon. Luo, this time it was Lin En who saved you. Rocinante's tall body moved aside, and Luo saw Lin En, who was about the same age and height as him. So young. I didn't expect that you, Lin En, are about the same age as me, and you have such medical skills. Luo admired Lin En very much. I saved you with the operation fruit. Lin En said to Luo. With the operation fruit, Lin En, you will definitely become a famous doctor. Many people with terminal illnesses in this sea can be saved. Although Luo En didn't know how Lin En got the operation fruit, he felt very happy when he thought that many people with terminal illnesses like him were saved because of Lin En. Can medical skills save this world? Lin En's words made Luo silent. Although Luo En was young, he had seen too much darkness in human nature in Frevens and Doflamingo pirates. He agreed with Lin En's words and he had no way to refute it. Luo, Lin En, we must leave as soon as possible. If Doflamingo knew that the operation fruit was taken away by me, he would block the entire Mignon Island. Rocinante knew how terrible Doflamingo was. Once they were found by Doflamingo, they would not have a chance to survive. I can't leave yet, you go first. By the way, there is a spy from the Doflamingo family in the navy that came to Mignon Island this time, and that person is the first-generation Corazon. Lin En is not ready to leave yet, he reminded Rocinante and Law. With the operation fruit, even if Doflamingo uses a birdcage, he can't lock Lin En. Doflamingo's main targets are Rocinante and Law, and it is the most dangerous to be with them. What? Doflamingo has a spy in the navy. Rocinante was shocked by Lin En's information. It has always been the world government and the navy that sent spies to the pirates, and the pirates sent spies to the navy. This is the first time that Rocinante has heard of it. When Rocinante wanted to ask Lin En where he got this information, Lin En had already left. Lin En, be careful. Luo kept waving his hands at Lin En, and he silently blessed him in his heart. Luo, let's go too. Rocinante glanced at the footprints left by Lin En, and said to Luo. Mr. Corazon, will we see Lin En again? Luo asked Rocinante. Of course, such a man will not die on Mignon Island, and his name will sooner or later resound through the sea. Rocinante rubbed Luo's spotted hat and said to Luo. Then two figures, one big and one small, set off towards the port. There was a small boat they came in, and they could transfer by this boat. If they could meet the navy reinforcements, it would be even better. Sengoku told him that Vice Admiral Tsuru was in charge of hunting down Doflamingo this time. She is also a legendary Vice Admiral like Iron Fist Garp. As long as she can come here in this case, Doflamingo will definitely run away immediately. In this case, Lin En's chance of survival will be greatly increased. I hope Rocinante will not die on Mignon Island. Lin En saw that Rocinante and Luo had left, and he also walked towards the town. Rocinante is one of the few good celestial dragons in the pirate world. In order to save Luo, he even paid the price of his life. This time Rocinante has been cured by Lin En, and he has also reminded Rocinante that he should not be caught by Virgo again. Rocinante is backed by the navy. If the navy knows that Lin En has eaten the surgery fruit, the navy will not let him go easily. Lin En is not interested in being a navy, and it is most appropriate not to go with Rocinante. As for Luo, Lin En has also thought about recruiting Luo as a subordinate. As a fierce man with a future bounty of more than 3 billion and who has pulled down one of the 4 emperors from the altar, it is impossible to say that he is not tempted. Unfortunately, Luo's guide, Rocinante, is still alive. Even if Lin En saved his life, it is unlikely that Luo would go with Lin En. Lin En had no choice but to choose another partner. As a traverser who has been traveling through the pirate world for less than a month, it is still necessary to find a native of the pirate world as a guide. Lin En has already selected a candidate, and this person is now on Mignon Island. She is also a member of the Doflamingo family, and she is the reserve cadre BABY5. With Baby 5's character that cannot refuse others, Lin En only needs one sentence to make her his partner. Baby 5's weapon fruit is also a very powerful fruit, but it's a pity that this fruit is limited by Baby 5's knowledge, and this fruit was developed and was wasted by BABY5. If Lin En trains Baby 5 now, Baby 5 can also become a strong man on the sea in the future. This is all later, provided that he will not be caught by Doflamingo and other cadres of the Don Quixote family. Baby 5 is already a capable person, and she has also received special training from the Don Quixote family, so her current strength is not low. If Lin En had not eaten the operation fruit, he would not be a match for BABY5. The weapon fruit is an offensive devil fruit, while the operation fruit is still a supporting one, so Lin En cannot fight Baby 5 head-on. After using the power of the operation fruit 3 times in a row, Lin En's physical strength was mostly consumed, and he had to eat as soon as possible to replenish his physical strength. Just after Lin En finished replenishing food and left the town, he felt a black shadow passing by in the sky. Has it been discovered so soon? Lin En squinted his eyes and looked up at the sky. The black shadow was a fat man wearing a heavy yellow long coat and a huge iron chain wrapped around his body. On his back, a little loli in a black maid outfit with a big red bow tied around her waist was inspecting something seriously. These are Baby 5 and Buffalo, the reserve cadres of the Doflamingo family. Lin En's eyes lit up. He was worried about where to kidnap Baby 5, but he didn't expect Baby 5 to come to him on her own initiative. The two of them seemed to have seen Lin En, and Buffalo's flying altitude dropped directly. "Hey, kid, have you seen a man wearing a black feather coat and clown makeup?" Buffalo flew to a height of 4 or 5 meters, and Baby 5 asked Lin En. Baby 5's voice was obviously that of a young loli, but her tone was full of old-fashionedness. "Why doesn't he speak? Isn't he scared by the reputation of our Doflamingo pirates? Kill him, don't let him delay our patrol time outside, Baby 5. Buffalo saw that Lin En not only didn't speak, he thought Lin En might be a fool. "Are you looking for Corazon and Law? Maybe they have left the island now." Lin En replied. The only people who know the names of Corazon and Law are those in the Doflamingo family, and Lin En in front of them is obviously not. Before Buffalo and Baby 5 could react, Lin En was no longer on the snow. Disappeared. He is not an ordinary kid, he is a person with the same ability as us. When Lin En used the ability of the surgery fruit to teleport, Buffalo immediately shouted. "Stupid, didn't you notice that there's another person on your back?" Feeling the terrifying breath of the boy behind her, Baby 5 angrily stomped on Buffalo's back with her boots. Buffalo understood and turned his back. Baby 5 hooked Buffalo's chain with her feet, and her hands turned into long swords and slashed backwards. But there was nothing behind her, and she didn't see anything. Why isn't he behind me? Baby 5 saw that there was nothing behind her, and she couldn't help but lose consciousness. She had clearly felt the boy's breath on the back of her neck just now, but when she turned her head, the boy had disappeared. Good cooperation. I didn't expect that a mere trainee cadre would have such strength. Lin's voice rang in Baby 5's ears again, and Baby 5's left ear could even feel the hot air blowing from Lin's ear. Buffalo realized that Lin was still on his back, and he started to spin again. But this time was different from the last time. When Buffalo was spinning, Baby 5 used the long sword transformed by the weapon fruit to directly place it on Buffalo's propeller under Lin's control. As Buffalo turned, Buffalo instantly turned into countless small pieces. I killed Buffalo. When Baby 5 saw this scene, she had such an idea in her mind. What's going on? Why is my body out of my control? Before Baby 5 shouted, Buffalo's surprised voice sounded first. Baby 5 then realized that Buffalo was not only not dead after being dismembered into such pieces, but not even a drop of blood was shed. What kind of devil fruit ability is this? There was a trace of horror in Baby 5's big eyes. Almost all the cadres of Doflamingo pirates were fruit ability users. But the fruits of those cadres were not as powerful as the fruit of Lin in front of him. I am a surgeon who ate the operation fruit. You are now in my operation space. Lin En briefly introduced his ability to them, but unexpectedly, the two children were immediately surprised. Operation fruit. Wasn't the operation fruit taken away by Rocinante? How come you ate the operation fruit? They were both shocked to hear that Lin En had eaten the operation fruit. The information sent to them by the family before said that Doflamingo's brother Corazon had taken the operation fruit from the barrelless pirates. According to the family's estimation, Corazon is already a devil fruit user, and he can no longer eat the operation fruit. Corazon came for Law. If anyone can become a user of the operation fruit, it can only be Law. But unexpectedly, they did not find Luo, on the contrary, found the user of the operation fruit first. This is not the problem you should care about, isn't it? How you can survive from my hands? Lin En gently kicked Buffalo's head away, and Buffalo immediately screamed. This was the first time that Lin En used the operation fruit to fight against the devil fruit user. In the operation fruit space, the superhuman user who did not master the armament hockey was like a sheep to be slaughtered. After fighting with Buffalo and Baby 5, Lin En also measured the limit of the operation space. Now the radius limit of the operation space is 100 meters. Lin En can only maintain the operation space for 3 minutes under normal conditions. If used in battle, the operation space can support a shorter time. You can't kill us. The cadres of the family have been observing us with the observation hockey. When you were fighting with us, the cadres of the family had already noticed you. Buffalo thought Lin En was going to silence him, and he shouted hurriedly. Use observation haki to cover the whole island. Lin En could sense Buffalo's mental state at this time, he was not lying. Sure enough, it's a bit too risky to play a high-end game right at the beginning. Lin En sighed. Now he not only has not mastered haki, but even his physique is not as strong as BABY5. He traveled through time and space to make his body smaller, but in terms of physique, he is not as strong as the native pirates who are monsters per capita. And Doflamingo's bounty has already exceeded 100 million, and he also has 3 colors of haki. If Doflamingo fights against himself, I'm afraid he will be cut into 9 pieces by Doflamingo with the string fruit in 1 minute. Hey, Baby 5, can you prepare some food for me? Lin En did not continue the previous topic with Baby 5, he asked BABY5. I needed. Baby 5's fair face suddenly bloomed with a blush, and then she jumped to prepare food. BABY5, he is an enemy, how can you work for an enemy? Seeing that Baby 5 was actually going to prepare food for Lin En, Buffalo screamed. But, he really needs my help. Baby 5's eyes were twinkling with little stars. After she finished speaking to Buffalo, her short legs that were moving happily became faster. Hey, I didn't expect that Rocinante's operation fruit was intercepted by this kid named Lin. Pica, bring that kid named Lin back alive, he will be the 3rd generation of Corazon in my family. On the other side of Mignon Island, when Lin subdued Baby 5 and Buffalo, Doflamingo actually laughed. Ian Burrells, who had just traded with him, told him that the operation fruit was hijacked. After Ian Burrells's description, Doflamingo was sure that it was his brother Rocinante who hijacked the operation fruit. The incident with Rocinante has proved Doflamingo's guess. Rocinante is a spy sent by the Navy to Doflamingo's pirate group. Doflamingo's observation haki did not sense Rocinante's trace, which means that Rocinante is a capable person, and his devil fruit ability has the effect of blocking observation haki. This is also the reason why Rocinante was able to repeatedly pass on information to the Navy under Doflamingo's nose. Ian Burrells has been killed by Doflamingo, and Baby 5 and Buffalo were sent by Doflamingo to find Rocinante and Law. Unexpectedly, Rocinante and Law were not found, but Lin, the user of the operation fruit, was found instead. Compared to catching Rocinante, it is obviously more important to control Lin. It has not been 3 hours since the operation fruit was lost, and Lin has the ability to defeat Baby 5 and Buffalo. Such talents are worthy of Doflamingo's training. I will bring him back, Dover. A strong man in armor answered with a sharp voice that did not match his body size. This is the highest cadre of the Don Quixote family, Spade Pica, and the 2 trainee cadres defeated by Lin are his subordinates. I say, is this kid named Lin En so important that he should be given the position of Supreme Cadre? Beside Doflamingo, a sloppy man wearing a pair of small sunglasses and with 2 snot hanging from his nostrils laughed. Of course, this Lin En is a guy who is even more monstrous than Luo. Doflamingo gave Lin En a very high evaluation. Dong dong dong. Pica walked towards Lin En with heavy steps. Mignon Island is just a small island. With Pica's speed, it will take less than 10 minutes to find Lin En. Keep looking. Before the Navy arrives, we must find Rocinante and Luo. When Pica left, the Supreme Cadre, Cube, Diamante said to the remaining cadres. The cadres responded, and they scattered around the island to look for them. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? Lin En looked at the black tea shaking on the table in front of him, and his brows frowned slightly. The vibration was very slight and regular. It's Master Pica who's here. You're done. Buffalo looked at Lin who was sipping the tea in front of him, and he squinted and laughed strangely. Buffalo was not deliberately making a joke, but mainly because he had lost the ability to control his expression after being beaten up by Lin. Just now, when he saw Baby 5 taking the initiative to make tea for Lin, Buffalo threatened Baby 5, and then he was beaten into a pig's head by Lin. Spade Pica. Lin knew this Supreme Cadre Spade Pica. He is the user of the stone fruit, and his devil fruit has a huge blessing on the island with many stones. Apart from Doflamingo, Pica is the most powerful cadre in Doflamingo's pirate group. Pica is very powerful, but he can't keep Lin. Before leaving Mignon Island, try to see how powerful you can really be. It was not that Lin En was asking for death. He knew that he had been discovered by Doflamingo's observation hockey. Even if he did not wait here, he would definitely be stopped by Pica when he escaped from Mignon Island. Instead of passively fighting, it is better to take the initiative to choose a place to fight. Lin En is confident that he can escape from Mignon Island. Originally, he had only the surgery fruit and his chance of escaping was 80%. With Baby 5, his chance of escaping is 100%. This is why Lin En dared to be so wild. Pica originally thought that Lin En would run away when he noticed his arrival, but he did not expect such a scene in front of him. Lin En was sitting on a table covered with white cloth and drinking tea, while Baby 5 was baking desserts for Lin En with a smile on his face. Looking at Lin En's appearance and his demeanor, he seemed to be an aristocrat having afternoon tea. And lying next to him was a fat man with his face beaten into pork. It seemed that he should be Buffalo. Forget it, let Trable teach, I'll educate you. Lin, I'm here for you this time. Pica's whole body turned black, and then he walked towards Lin. Pica saw Baby 5 refilling Lin's tea with a satisfied look on her face, and he knew what happened. It must be that Baby 5 felt that she was needed by Lin. Because of this problem, Baby 5 has been sold by human traffickers 3 times in the North Sea. That is to say, Doflamingo's pirate group has outstanding intelligence capabilities, and they have found Baby 5 in time every time, otherwise she might have become a slave now. Lin, right, Dov asked me to invite you to join the family. As long as you join the Don Quixote family, you will be the 3rd generation Supreme Cadre Corazon Heart. Quote. Pica said to Lin En before he made his move. The pirates and the underground world who often hang out in the North Sea know what the Don Quixote family means in the pirate world and the underground world of the North Sea. As long as they are not mentally ill, they will definitely join after hearing such generous conditions. But this does not include Lin En. Lin En knew Doflamingo's purpose. He wanted to train Lin En first, and when Lin En became strong, he would use his life to perform the immortal surgery for him. Doflamingo's calculation was very good, and Lin En had already seen through him. Lin En released the operating space, and Pica was instantly enveloped by the operating space. Lin En was ready to use his absolute control over the operating space to kill Pica instantly. Once Pica was prepared, it would be difficult for him to defeat Pica again. However, Pica was too stable. Before the battle started, he coated his body with a layer of black film. Ding! Quote. Lin En's knife stabbed into Pica's body with a crisp sound. This was the first time that Lin En was blocked in the operating space. It seems that you are going to reject the kindness of the Don Quixote family. Seeing that Lin En used the power of the surgery fruit on him, Pica's eyes narrowed slightly. Pica didn't have the patience to persuade Lin En, he stomped his feet and attacked Lin En. It's just a little kid, just beat him to lose the ability to resist and bring him back to the family. As for other things, Toripal will naturally be responsible for handling them. Lin En saw Pica's actions, his heart skipped a beat, and he teleported directly from the gravel road to the snow next to him. Under Lin En's eyes, a row of sharp stone thorns grew on the originally flat stone road surface. If Lin En hadn't dodged in time, these sharp stone thorns would have pierced his feet. Before Lin En could react, Pica's combo came. Pica's hand pressed on the 3-story stone building next to him, and the building exploded immediately, and the stones hit Lin En one after another. If Lin En could not teleport in the operating space, this wave of attacks would have seriously injured him. He actually predicted my attack direction in advance. Is this the observation hockey? Lin En did not practice hockey, so he could only make such a guess. This is not good. Pica's strength is stronger than his. Now he can predict his thoughts. How can he play this? Suddenly, the corners of Lin En's mouth curled up, and he thought of a new use of the operation fruit. The operating space observed Pica's every move clearly. Even when Pica's muscles just began to move, Lin En knew that he was going to swing his left fist at him. As Lin En expected, Lin En easily dodged the attack. At this time, Lin En was in control of Pica's attacks, and Lin En could accurately dodge every attack of Pica. Lin En dodged Pica's attacks whenever he could, and for those moves that he couldn't dodge, he used the power of the surgery fruit to teleport out of Pica's attack range. No matter how strong Pica was or how fast he was, he couldn't be faster than Linen's teleportation. Pica's attacks looked powerful, but they didn't hurt Linen at all. This town was in trouble. Under Pica's violent output, the town's buildings were smashed into ruins one after another, and finally those stones were wrapped up by Pica's stone fruit and became part of the attack on Linen. Pica was very tall, and his attack range was very large, and Linen couldn't even get close to him now. Baby 5, transform into a sword girl. Linen shouted to Baby 5 next to him, and the next moment, Baby 5's legs turned into sword blades, her torso turned into a hilt, and her arms turned into hand guards. Linen just held a maid-dressed long sword in his hand. As Linen swung the knife in his hand, a straight crack appeared on the stone controlled by Pica. These stone soldiers were not attached with armament hockey, and the long sword in Linen's hand instantly penetrated those stones. The stones made by Pica with the stone fruit were easily cut by Linen. The process was very smooth, and Pica did not feel that the stone he condensed caused any hindrance to the knife. In this space, Linen is a god. As long as it is not hockey and sea stone, Linen can easily cut it in this space. In other words, the person in front of him is Pica who has mastered armament hockey. If it is an enemy who does not know armament hockey, Linen would have cut him into pieces by now. Is this kid a swordsman? Only the swordsman / can easily cut hard stones. Pica looked at this scene, and his eyes became solemn. Pica heard that the swordsman / had the ability to cut through hard steel, but this ability seemed particularly inconsistent when it appeared on a little devil. Is this the ability of the weapon fruit, or the ability of his surgery fruit? Pica recalled the swordswoman that Linen had transformed into using Baby 5 just now. For a moment, he couldn't tell whose ability it was. However, Pica still preferred the ability of the surgery fruit. If the long sword transformed by Baby 5 had such a terrifying effect, Doflamingo would have discovered it long ago and would not have waited until now. The truly powerful one is Linen holding the sword, not the sword itself. I didn't expect that the surgery fruit could actually make the sword in your hand do such a thing. No wonder this fruit can be sold at a sky-high price of 5 billion Baileys. Pica said to Linen with a serious face. Hearing the name of the devil fruit, Pica thought that the surgery fruit only had miraculous effects in medicine. But when Linen was fighting with him just now, all he saw were sharp killing moves. Pica didn't dare to underestimate the kid in front of him. If he was careless, he might lose the duel. You won't have the same chance as before, Pica said to Linen, and his whole body seemed to become darker. Since the stone doesn't work, then use hockey to fight. The sword in Linen's hand has no effect on him now. After the battle just now, Pica has seen that Linen doesn't know how to use armament hockey at all, which is his most fatal flaw. Linen, Master Pica hasn't used his full strength yet. We are not Master Pica's opponent. Baby 5 was held in Linen's hand, and she could still talk to Linen at this time. She could feel that Linen's physique was almost at its limit, because he was already panting. In contrast, Pica was still very fierce, and even the long sword he carried wastes useless. Linen is a good person, and she doesn't want to see Linen die at the hands of Pica. Linen had to admit that Baby 5 was right. Pica has rich combat experience. Even when facing a kid like Linen who looks about the same age as Baby 5, he is covered with armament hockey throughout the whole process. If it weren't for armament hockey, Linen would have cut him into pieces long ago. He can't keep wasting time with Pica. The operation fruit consumes a lot of energy. After Pica, there is Doflamingo, and Linen needs to be on guard against Doflamingo. Pica, let me change my devil fruit ability to fight you. Linen teleported and appeared 100 meters in front of Pica, and then he showed a weird smile to Pica. Now that his physical strength is almost exhausted, he can only change his number to fight Pica. Linen cancelled Baby 5's long sword transformation, and now Baby 5 also appeared in front of Linen. Transplant. Linen's finger touched the center of Baby 5's brow. The next moment, he felt his perspective change. He actually saw himself. Linen, is my eyes hallucinating? How did I become you? Baby 5 also saw herself in front of her. She understood what was going on and immediately panicked. It's okay. I'll change back after dealing with Pica. Lin took off the bow tie that was in the way around his waist and said to Baby-5. After exchanging bodies, can the Operation Fruit actually do such a thing? Pica looked at the scene in front of him and felt a little outrageous. Lin was not his opponent even with his own body. How could he use Baby-5's body? Lin didn't have time to care what Pica was thinking. He was trying to adapt to Baby-5's body. It must be said that Baby-5 is indeed a native of the pirates. Her strength and stamina are stronger than Lin's. Perhaps it was the difference in gender. Baby-5's body was very soft and fragrant. Baby-5 is still underdeveloped, so Lin quickly adapted to this female lowly body. Come on, let me see what other surprises you can give me. Pica crossed his arms and watched Lin's performance quietly. Now his whole body was covered with armament hockey. He was curious about how this kid who didn't even know hockey would defeat him. You'll see. Lin smiled at Pica, and he started the first transformation of the weapon fruit. Baby-5, this is the official use of the weapon fruit. Watch carefully, I will only teach you once. After Lin finished speaking to Pica, he turned to Baby-5 who was holding his body behind him and said, Weapon transformation, Mark IV armor. As Lin whispered, the petite and lovely Baby-5 directly turned into a golden and red robot. Turning your whole body into steel can indeed enhance your defense, but do you think you can defeat me with this? Pica laughed loudly. Although Lin's idea was very good, he underestimated Pica's power. Don't worry, it hasn't started yet. Lin raised his head, and the golden eyes on the mask began to light up. Lin took a step back, and when he was about to hit Baby-5, the parts behind the armor suddenly scattered. Baby-5 was covered by the armor. From Pica's perspective, it seemed that the steel armor, Baby-5. The round light on the chest of the Mark armor lit up, and then two flame jets appeared under the armor's feet, taking Baby-5 and Lin to the sky. It actually flew up. I didn't expect that Baby-5's weapon fruit could also develop the ability to fly. Buffalo looked up at the flying Baby-5, his eyes full of shock. All along, Baby-5 flew to the sky on his body, and then Baby-5 transformed into a hot weapon in the sky to attack targets on the ground. I didn't expect that Baby-5's fruit could also develop the ability to fly. I'm afraid Buffalo won't have the opportunity to take Baby-5 to fly in the future. What kind of weapon is this? Is this really the weapon transformed by my weapon fruit? Baby-5 looked at Pica and Buffalo below through the eye mask, and her eyes were also full of shock at this time. The weapon fruit can turn part of one's body into a weapon. All along, Baby-5 has transformed into conventional weapons such as swords, axes, pistols, and cannons. She didn't expect that there is such a magical weapon as Mark armor in this world. The physical strength consumption is much slower than the surgery fruit. The physical strength requirement of the surgery fruit is really too high. Lin flew into the sky. He felt the physical strength consumption at this time. He couldn't help but complain about the surgery fruit. The weapon fruit is a superhuman system. With Baby-5's current physical strength, she can't turn her whole body into a weapon. The outer part of the Mark armor is steel, but the inner part that is close to Lin's body is Baby-5's skin. The girl's soft skin buffers the stiffness brought by steel, which is better than the prototype of the Mark armor. This is the real use of the weapon fruit. As long as you know the approximate function and principle of the weapon fruit can imitate it. Ha! A stone spear flew straight towards Lin from below. Lin raised his arm, and a 6-barrel machine gun stretched out from his left forearm armor. Da da da! The machine gun began to roar. With only 2 shots, the stone spear was blown into pieces. The remaining machine gun bullets hit Pica, and balls of flames appeared on Pica's body. This is another bug of the weapon fruit. As long as the physical strength is sufficient, it can be fired infinitely, and there is no need to change bullets. What kind of gun is this? It can actually make me feel pain. Pica was bombarded by machine guns one after another. He couldn't raise his head. Even with the protection of armed color domineering, Pica felt a strong pain in the part hit by the machine gun. Don't be too arrogant, kid. Pica's body sank into the stone, and a stone man Pica with a height of more than 10 meters stood up from the ground. With the protection of this layer of stone armor, the machine gun of Mark armor could no longer make him feel pain. Come on, kid, I want to see what you can do to me this time. Pica drew out the long sword at his waist, and the stone man also condensed a huge stone sword of 40 meters. Pica not only added a layer of armament hockey to the stone man's appearance, but also added a layer of armament hockey to his stone sword. Pica felt that he was humiliated by this kid who didn't even know hockey. Pica even used this trick. It seems that this kid named Lin is more of a monster than I thought. Pica's huge body was reflected on Doflamingo's sunglasses. Pica's body was so big now that Doflamingo on the other side of the island could see it. A teenager who didn't even know hockey, it was already so strong. If he hadn't eaten the operation fruit, Mingo wouldn't have the heart to let such a little guy die. Mingo, this monster is no less powerful than you at the same age, except that he doesn't have the conqueror hockey. Trebol was also surprised. They were willing to become Mingo's subordinates because they saw Mingo, who was 10 years old, show the conqueror hockey. Except for not having the conqueror hockey, everything that the kid named Lin showed was better than Mingo back then. Dover, Pica might be in danger. Do I need to help? Supreme Officer, Cube, Diamante asked Doflamingo. He, trust Pica. Doflamingo laughed. This kid named Lin did give him a lot of surprises, but without mastering hockey, he is still an ant. It is impossible to dominate the world by relying solely on the power of the devil fruit, and hockey is the power that can truly override everything. Lin, Lord Pica looks too strong now, let's run away. Baby 5 saw this huge Pica that looked like a sea king, and she felt that such a monster was not something that children like them could defeat. Believe in the weapon fruit, BABY5. All fears are due to insufficient firepower. Lin said, and 12 rockets appeared on both shoulders of the Mark armor. Swish, swish, swish. The rockets emitted white smoke and hit Pica's body, and the stone man instantly turned into a fireman. With the reactor that was transformed, the Mark armor consumed much less physical strength than Lin expected. After the 12 rockets were fired, the new 12 rockets were reloaded to cover Pica. These rocket shells are not comparable to those ordinary shells like RPG in the pirate world. Each of them has the ability of a micro-missile. Swoosh, Lin En flew in front of the giant stone man, and his hands released electromagnetic pulse cannons, and the stone man's hands and feet were all knocked off by Lin En. Pica was on the stone man's torso, and he was not panicked at all when he saw the stone man being dismembered. With his stone fruit ability, he could make those hands and feet grow again at any time. Before he could gather his hands and feet again, Pica saw that the armored chest lit up. It was a cluster gun. As the cluster gun penetrated Pica's stone man's body, Pica's body was instantly blown up and scarred. Lin En's attack did not contain any domineering, but his firepower was strong enough that even Pica, who was protected by the armed color domineering, could not withstand such a terrifying firepower coverage. The firepower of the Mark armor was too strong, and even Doflamingo and others on the other side of the island could see the flames rising into the sky and feel the island shaking constantly. Save Pica. Doflamingo's body flew up instantly, and he went towards Pica. Seeing the terrifying firepower of the Mark armor, Doflamingo also lost confidence in Pica. Such a powerful firepower, who is fighting? Outside Mignon Island, a navy warship with a huge crane on its sail was heading here. Seeing the flames rising to the sky on the island, the navy officers all felt the intensity of the battle. Sister Crane, could it be that our navy's spies who are hiding in the Doflamingo family are fighting with Pica? On this ship, a beautiful navy woman with long legs and black spider tattoos asked the gray-haired female navy vice admiral beside her. It's not him. Xiao Migu's combat power is very ordinary, he can't force the supreme cadre spade Pica to this extent. Vice Admiral Crane looked at the huge stone man who fell in the fire and explosion, and she shook her head in denial. Vice Admiral Crane has been chasing the Doflamingo family in the North Sea for a long time, and is also familiar with the information of those cadres of the Doflamingo family. Although Pica's bounty is only 99 million berries, his real strength is stronger than those pirates with bounties of over 100 million. Those who can defeat such a powerful pirate are definitely not ordinary people. Here they come, the Navy's reinforcements are coming. Outside Mignon Island, when Rocinante saw the Navy warship, his eyes flashed with excitement. Unexpectedly, it was Vice Admiral Tsuru who came this time. Now Lin En is saved. Rocinante has been using the power of the silence fruit to hide his and Luo's whereabouts. After seeing the Navy appear, their ship approached the Navy. Mr. Corazon, who do you think the golden and red steel man fighting with Pica will be? While Luo was watching the fire on Mignon Island, he asked Rocinante. For some reason, Luo's mind suddenly flashed Lin En's face. The robot's moves seemed to have nothing to do with the surgery fruit, but Luo subconsciously thought it was Lin En. When Rocinante was approaching Vice Admiral Tsuru's ship, Vice Admiral Tsuru also discovered their ship, and they were quickly pulled onto the Navy warship. Vice Admiral Tsuru, the surgery fruit was eaten by a child named Lin, and he is still on the island. You must rescue him from Doflamingo. As soon as Rocinante saw Vice Admiral Tsuru, he reported the matter of Mignon Island to Vice Admiral Tsuru. Hearing Rocinante's words, the warship moved faster. The surgery fruit did not fall into Doflamingo's hands, which was good news for Vice Admiral Tsuru. The surgery fruit is very important, and the Navy must protect the users of the surgery fruit. Sister, then I'll go to the island to find Lin first. When Guillaume heard the news, she stepped on her long legs in high heels and flew towards Mignon Island in the air. This is the moon step in the 6 styles of the Navy. She uses the moon step much faster than the warship. Guillaume, be careful. Vice Admiral Tsuru did not stop Guillaume. Guillaume's strength is ranked high among the vice admirals of the Navy. Guillaume arrived at Mignon Island, and the ones he should be careful of are actually the Doflamingo pirates. Has the Navy arrived? Lin En could also see the Navy warship that Vice Admiral Tsuru was riding on, and he could also see a black shadow flying here using the moon step. Although Lin En didn't know who it was, he must be a master of the Navy to dare to do such a thing. Lin En could see the Navy arrived, not to mention the Doflamingo pirates. Doflamingo directly used Den Den Mushi to let Trable and others get on board, and he went to where Lin En was alone. Pica was the one who followed him to create the family when he was young. He couldn't leave Pica to the Navy, he wanted to take Pica and Lin En away. Lin En, is Pica dead? Seeing the charred Pica, Baby 5 asked Lin En. Now Pica looked horrible, his eyes were white, his body turned extremely black, and there was even a faint smell of meat. He's not dead, he just fainted. Lin En checked Pica's injuries. Even though Pica's injuries looked so serious, his heartbeat and everything else looked normal. For this situation, Lin En could only say that the people in the pirate world were really strong. When Lin En was about to do something to Pica, several extremely thin lines in the sky passed through the operating space and went straight to Lin En's head. When those thin lines came to the top of his head, Lin En realized. A half-meter-long flame spurted out from the back of the Mark armor, and the Mark armor flew hundreds of meters away in an instant. What a fast speed! He didn't awaken his observation haki, but he actually avoided my parasitic line. There was a burst of applause in the sky, and a man wearing a pink flamingo coat, cropped pants, and moccasins in the sky, he clapped his hands and slowly descended. It's the young master. When he saw Doflamingo, Baby 5 screamed, but now she was in the Mark armor, and her voice did not come out. Doflamingo pressed his fingers on Pica's body, and Pica's huge body began to be completely entangled by the white line. As Mingi's 2 fingers moved, Pica's huge body stood up like a puppet. Doflamingo, the Navy is coming soon, why don't you retreat? Lin looked at Doflamingo and asked him. Baby5. You actually spoke to me in such a tone. No, you are not Baby5, you are Lin. Doflamingo reacted quickly, and he instantly realized that the person talking to him was not Baby 5, but Lin in Baby 5's skin. Doflamingo also understood that the Iron Man in front of him was created by Lin through the weapon fruit, which was not the ability of the Operation Fruit. Hey, I didn't expect that the Operation Fruit could develop such a terrible ability by you. Lin, join my family. I will make you the highest cadre of the family and give you all the resources to grow. Doflamingo looked at Lin, and his attitude became more enthusiastic. Doflamingo, are you interested in my ability as a person, or are you interested in the Operation Fruit? Do you want me to perform the immortality operation for you after I grow up? Lin looked at Doflamingo and he directly brought up the topic. Doflamingo's calculations could not be hidden from Lin. In order to achieve immortality, Doflamingo chose to let his younger brother Corazon eat the Operation Fruit. As long as Corazon can finally use the awakening ability of the Operation Fruit, Doflamingo can live forever. Now that the Operation Fruit has been intercepted by Lin, he immediately locked his target on Lin. With Doflamingo's fame and reputation in the North Sea, he originally thought that kids like Lin, Luo, and Baby Five would be happy to join, but he didn't expect that he would see through the essence of the matter directly. Doflamingo looked at Mark Armor's golden eyes, and the atmosphere froze for a moment. Doflamingo originally wanted to trick Lin En back to the family, but he didn't expect Lin En to be so clear-headed. This made things difficult. Lin En, I just want to recruit you as a talent. Mingay is a long-tested man. Although his purpose was exposed by Lin En, he didn't show any embarrassment on his face. No matter what your purpose is, I refuse. I refuse to join any force. Lin En directly blocked Doflamingo's words. That's not up to you. The Operation Fruit is something from my Don Quixote family. Since you have eaten the Operation Fruit, you must become a cadre of the Don Quixote family. Become my subordinate or be killed by me, it's your choice. Doflamingo looked at the navy that was about to land on the island, and he had lost his patience. I said, I will not join your pirate group. Lin En said, and he turned around without hesitation and prepared to leave. Seeing this, Doflamingo's expression also turned cold. Flashing wires. One after another, thin wires shot out from Doflamingo's hands like bullets. Da. Almost at the same time, the multi-barreled machine gun on Lin's arm fired at Doflamingo. A shield with armed color domineering appeared in front of Doflamingo, and all the bullets fired by Lin were blocked. Lin did not entangle for long, and all the thrusters behind him were turned on and prepared to leave. He had little physical strength left, and he could not defeat Doflamingo in a short time. Since he could not defeat Doflamingo, it would be useless to continue fighting with Doflamingo. Super Strike Whip. Doflamingo's counterattack arrived, and dozens of thin wires formed a cone-shaped wire cone, which pierced straight into Lin's back. Doflamingo, stop! A dazzling slash flew here from a distance. But the slash was too far away. Before the slash flew over, Doflamingo's attack had already reached Lin's back. Boom! A meter-long flame spurted out from behind Lin, and the flame had already burned Doflamingo's line. The next moment, two white air rings appeared behind Lin, and Lin's figure appeared 500 meters away as if teleporting. After two more accelerations, Lin's figure disappeared directly from Doflamingo's observation hockey perception range. Doflamingo's devil fruit was not the speed-promoting sparkle fruit, nor the thunder fruit. Facing Lin's terrifying speed, he couldn't catch up at all. Is this really a kid who just ate the devil fruit and hasn't mastered hockey yet? Doflamingo didn't expect that Lin could give him such a surprise when he was escaping. He was flying at full speed, but it was not even 1/10 of Lin's burst speed when he was escaping. He could only watch Lin disappear at the end of the sea. Doflamingo, I've caught you, surrender. A golden long sword was placed on Doflamingo's neck, and Guillaume looked at Doflamingo with a hint of teasing in her eyes. Doflamingo had escaped from his sister, Vice Admiral Tsuru, many times, and now he was finally caught by her. You're so fast, Vice Admiral Guillaume. Even though the sword was pressed on his neck, Doflamingo was not panicked at all. He smiled at Guillaume as if he saw an old friend. Who was the man you just fought with? Guillaume was also shocked by Lin's terrifying speed. Since that person fought with Doflamingo, it means that he is most likely not a pirate. As long as he is not a pirate, Guillaume can strive for such talents to join the navy. Vice Admiral Guillaume, when you really catch me, I will tell you everything. The smile on Doflamingo's face did not diminish, but the color of his body began to fade. In less than a second, Doflamingo under Guillaume's sword turned into a puppet made of white lines. It's the Shadow Knight line again. This Doflamingo is really cunning. Guillaume also recognized Doflamingo's moves at this time. She knew that Doflamingo had escaped from their eyes again. Have you found the user of the Operation Fruit, Lin En? After Vice Admiral Tsuru landed on the island, she asked Guillaume. No, except for a few residents who survived by hiding, there were no other discoveries. The Doflamingo pirates have all withdrawn, and there are no clues left here for tracking. Guillaume came to Vice Admiral Tsuru and said to him, who was that robot that was confronting Doflamingo just now? He seemed to be very fast. Vice Admiral Tsuru did not continue to dwell on this question. Instead, he asked Gion about Lin's information. The robot just now seemed to be in a hostile relationship with Doflamingo. This was the first time that Vice Admiral Tsuru had seen such a powerful technological creation on the sea. If the strongest scientist Vegapunk had not been protected by the world government somewhere, Vice Admiral Tsuru would have suspected that the robot was Vegapunk's masterpiece. I don't know. The robot left too quickly. I didn't talk to him at all. Gion looked distressed when she heard this. That robot was so weird. Didn't he realize that he was a navy? If the robot could hold Doflamingo back, Gion would be confident that he could keep Doflamingo on Mignon Island. As soon as the robot ran away, Doflamingo ran away too. Tell the navy of each branch in the North Sea to pay attention to the news of Lin, the user of the Operation Fruit, and the mysterious robot just now, and report to me immediately if there is any news. Vice Admiral Tsuru ordered a female navy. After the female navy heard Vice Admiral Tsuru's order, she saluted Vice Admiral Tsuru, and then she spread Vice Admiral Tsuru's order to other naval bases through the Snail Den Mushi. Lin didn't know that he had become a hot new star in the North Sea. At this time, he was still instructing BABY-5 to adapt to the Mark armor on the sea. After escaping from Mignon Island and making sure that all the pursuers were thrown off, Lin and Baby 5 also exchanged their bodies back. While Lin felt the soft touch of Baby 5's skin against his own, he instructed BABY-5 to get familiar with the Mark armor. Baby 5's physical strength was running out. If he couldn't get familiar with the Mark armor now, he would have to exchange bodies with Lin to transform this armor next time. That memory was too shameful, and Baby 5 didn't want to experience it again. BABY-5, let's land on the island ahead. Lin En looked eastward and saw an island ahead. Now Baby 5's strength was about to run out, and if the two of them fell into the sea, it would not end well. A fat wild boar was roasted and sizzling with oil. As Baby 5 sprinkled the seasoning, the rich aroma spread throughout the island. Children of the poor have to grow up early. Although she was only 12 years old, Baby 5 had almost maxed out all her life skills. Lin, the barbecue is ready. After Baby 5 left a roasted pig's front leg for herself, she shouted to the forest. The next moment, Lin appeared in front of the wild boar, and he ate the whole roasted wild boar like a whirlwind. Lin used the surgical space on himself, and then he used the power of the surgery fruit to speed up the absorption of his intestines. The belly that was originally bulging became flat in an instant, and the energy of the food was continuously converted into energy and stored. This ability is similar to the life return of the Navy, but this ability is not a physical skill mastered by Lin. This is his way of using the surgery fruit to take advantage of it. This is what Lin thinks is the correct way to use the surgery fruit. Compared with the combat capability of the Operation Fruit, Lin En values its control and transformation capabilities over the body more. In just 3 days, Lin En felt that his physical strength and power had doubled. Not enough, Baby 5, help me roast a few more large prey. After consuming the wild boar, Lin En opened his eyes and said to BABY-5. As Lin En said this, he rushed directly into the forest. In less than a moment, he dragged back a bigger wild boar. This wild boar was the husband of the wild boar that was roasted just now. Now all of them entered Lin En's stomach neatly. Hearing that she was needed, Baby 5 naturally agreed happily. But when she was dissecting the wild boar, she asked hesitantly, Lin En, you have eaten 5 wild boars today. Will you really not be bloated if you eat like this? Baby 5 looked at the white bones piled up like a small hill around her, and a trace of worry flashed in her eyes. Although there is a truth circulating on the sea that combat power is linked to the amount of food eaten, Baby 5 has also seen many big eaters in the Doflamingo pirates. However, the Doflamingo pirates combined do not eat as much as Lin En now. They have only been on this deserted island for 3 days, and the large beasts here are almost eaten by Lin En. Don't worry, it will be fine. Lin En heard Baby 5's caring words, and he gently pinched Baby 5's little face. Well, then I'll start roasting now. Baby 5 got Lin En's encouragement, and she became happier. Baby 5's left arm turned into a flamethrower, and the piled branches were instantly ignited, and the wild boar began to slowly emit fragrance. It's time to read the newspaper again today. Lin En looked at the news bird flying in the sky, and he directly covered it with the surgical space. Then the pebble in Lin En's hand was replaced with a newspaper. The headline of today's news is still about the Red Hair Pirates. Although the Red Hair Pirates have not yet become the pirate emperor who reigns over the New World, they have already gained considerable fame. Such a powerful pirate group is actually wandering in the East China Sea, which has aroused speculation from the world government and the Navy. Even the World Economic News is paying close attention, and the deeds of the Red Hair Pirates in the East China Sea are updated every day. Today's news headline is "The Kingdom of Music Elegia is destroyed, and the Red Hair Pirates return to the East China Sea." The photo in the newspaper is a photo of the destruction of the Kingdom of Music. In the fire, the photos of the members of the Red Hair Pirates look particularly terrifying. So, Shank's adopted daughter Yuta has left the Red Hair Pirates at this time. When Lin En saw this newspaper, the first thing that came to his mind was the future strongest singer Yuta. Yuta is the ability user of the song fruit, and has a singing voice that attracts the whole world. Now that Yuta has broken up with Shanks, perhaps this is a good opportunity to take down Yuta. After reading the headlines, Lin En suddenly realized that he was also in the newspaper. North Sea F-19 branch was destroyed by Lin En, and another supernova appeared in the North Sea. This news only had a few short lines, which said that F-19 branch was killed by Lin En alone, and only Virgo survived the entire branch. This is Doflamingo's handiwork. After Lin En saw this news, he immediately understood. Doflamingo saw that directly recruiting Lin En was fruitless, so in order to prevent Lin En from joining the Navy, he did this. A wanted poster for Lin En also fell out of the newspaper. This photo was taken by Baby 5 on Mignon Island. The photo was taken when drinking tea. 90 million berries. The Navy really thinks highly of me. Lin En saw that he had a bounty of 90 million berries for the first time, and a strange color flashed in his eyes. 90 million doesn't sound like much, but this is not the sea of bounties flooding 10 years later. The bounties now are still very valuable. The first bounty of Kaido, the pirate emperor who reigns over the New World, was only 70 million berries, and Charlotte Linlin was only 50 million berries. With such a terrifying bounty, it's no wonder that big news Morgans called Lin En the new pirate star of the North Sea. As for another pirate star in the North Sea, it is naturally Doflamingo. With the Operation Fruit and 90 million berries, those bounty hunters in the North Sea are probably looking for Lin En now. Hey, Virgo did a great job on this. In this way, Lin will not be able to join the Navy and the world government. In the Don Quixote family's base camp, Doflamingo smiled at the newspaper in front of him. I say, in this way, Baby 5 kidnapped by Lin can also return to the family, and our family can also gain a powerful subordinate. Now those gangs and bounty hunters in the North Sea have begun to act, and Lin will soon have nowhere to hide. Trebol put his sticky head close and said to Doflamingo, Dover, if we do this, aren't we afraid that Lin will die in the hands of those bounty hunters? In that case, we will still get nothing. Diamante didn't understand why Doflamingo cared so much about a teenage kid. If Lin dies, the Operation Fruit will reappear on the sea, which is also a good thing for us. But I don't think Lin will die. How can those bounty hunters be his opponent for a man who can defeat Pica just after eating a devil fruit? Doflamingo recalled the scene of his previous conversation with Lin. He had a hunch that Lin's future achievements would not be simple. Dad, the legendary Operation Fruit has appeared. If this little brother named Lin can come to the New World to join us, then Dad, your hidden injury may be healed. New World, on the Moby Dick. Captain Marco of the 1st Squadron pointed to the news in today's newspaper and said to the tall man sitting on the bow. Gulala, don't care about such trivial matters. I am also immortal and will die sooner or later. The man with a crescent-shaped beard didn't care at all. He picked up the newspaper in Marco's hand. The trainee kid on Roger's ship should be coming to the New World to compete for hegemony. Whitebeard paused for a moment on the headlines of today's newspaper, and then he looked at the page recording Lin's news. The first bounty is 90 million Baileys. This kid is incredible. Whitebeard looked at Lin's bounty, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Although the wanted order did not specify how old Lin was, based on Whitebeard's experience, Lin was definitely not over 15 years old. With such achievements at such an age, Whitebeard has recognized his strength. If this kid can come to the New World, I allow him to use the flag of the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard looked at the wanted order in his hand and said in a deep voice. The Whitebeard pirates are the strongest pirate group in the world. If Lin hangs the flag of the Whitebeard pirates in the New World, then Lin can walk sideways in the New World. Great, if brother Lin can come to the New World, I believe he will become our brother. Hearing Whitebeard's recognition of Lin, Marco changed the way he addressed Lin. The Operation Fruit has appeared, but where is the dark fruit? In the corner of the Moby Dick, Marshal D. Teach, who was holding a large glass of wine, looked gloomy. He had been on the ship of the Whitebeard pirates for more than 10 years for the dark fruit, but the dark fruit was still missing. Teach, what are you in a daze about? Cheers. Captain Thatch of the 4th Division appeared in front of Marshal D. Teach. Captain Thatch, cheers. When Blackbeard looked up, he restored his honest face. He had been disguised like this for more than 10 years, and even Whitebeard could not see through his disguise. Wow, the Operation Fruit has appeared. It's a pity that he is not an animal type, otherwise I can let him be the real fighter of the Beast's pirates. Wano Country, Onigashima. Kaido, the strongest single-player creature on land, sea and air, was drinking happily while flipping through today's newspaper. Lin En's first bounty was higher than his, which made Kaido take a closer look. That's all. The competition in the New World is the most brutal, and Kaido has seen too many geniuses die. For Kaido, geniuses who have not grown up are worthless. The 3 big bosses and the Flying 6 under Kaido are all monsters among monsters. Geniuses are not lacking in the Beast's pirates. It was the Operation Fruit that made Kaido a little curious. If it weren't for this title, Kaido wouldn't have looked at Lin En more. This kind of thing happened not only among the pirate emperors, but also among the 7 warlords of the sea. Alabasta, Rain Feast, Crocodile, the 7 warlords of the sea, tapped the armrest of the seat with his hand, and he finally picked up a Den Mushi. Mr. 7, go to the North Sea and recruit Lin En for our Baroque studio. Lin En's fruit ability and strength are very good. It would be a pity if Doflamingo killed him. After hearing the reply from his subordinates, Crocodile hung up the Den Mushi. Crocodile's bounty for becoming a Shichibukai was only 81 million Baileys, while Lin En's initial bounty was 90 million Baileys, which is enough to show Lin En's ability. With Lin En's joining, the Baroque studio he founded will be more perfect, and Lin En may also become Mr. 1's right-hand man. On a broken pirate ship, Baby 5 was happily counting the harvest. Lin, this pirate group has nearly 8 million Baileys of wealth. Including the 3 pirate groups we defeated before, we already have nearly 30 million Baileys of treasure. Baby 5 collected the gold and Baileys together, her face full of joy. Baby 5 is just a child, she has never received so much money. There are so many pirates in the North Sea. Lin looked at the spoils, his face was very calm. These pirates were too weak, and there was not even a devil fruit ability user. Lin had no interest in these pirates at all. Half a month after Lin's bounty was exposed, the first wave of bounty hunters found Lin, who was developing the surgery fruit on a deserted island. All the changes started after the first bounty hunter found Lin. Lin En was able to defeat Pica the first time he ate the Operation Fruit. After half a month of retreat, Lin En's physique was stronger than BABY5. In order to keep his whereabouts secret, Lin En simply dealt with the first wave of bounty hunters who found him. But it was useless. The second and third waves of bounty hunters also appeared. These people were not strong, but they affected Lin En's development of the Operation Fruit. Lin En knew that he could no longer practice here peacefully, and he had to change places. So Lin En drove the largest 3-masted ship left on the island by the bounty hunters out to sea. Lin En had just crossed here not long ago, and he didn't know the skills of driving a boat at all. As for BABY5, she only knew how to row a small sampan, and it was still a bit difficult for her to control such a huge ship. Lin En turned the rudder, and now even Lin En didn't know exactly where it was. That is, the weather in the North Sea is mild. If it were on the dangerous Grand Route, this ship would have capsized several times. After all, there are too few members. Now the 2 of them can't even play in the North Sea, let alone the Grand Line. Pirate hunters want to kill him to get the bounty, and the pirates in the North Sea also want to kill him to become famous. Except for the Doflamingo pirates, Lin is the pirate with the highest bounty in the North Sea so far. The pirates dare not attack the Doflamingo pirates, but they have no scruples about attacking Lin. How strong can a 13 or 14-year-old kid be? All the pirates holding these ideas were sunk into the sea by Lin, and their treasures were collected by BABY5. It has to be said that Doflamingo's move is disgusting and effective. It seems that Lin wants to avoid the pursuit of those bounty hunters, pirates, and the navy. He has no other way except to join the Doflamingo pirates. But Lin doesn't think so. He has a way to break the situation. During these battles, Lin had been using the Operation Fruit to strengthen his body. He did not take any action. All the pirates were dealt with by BABY5. The weapons used by Baby 5 were all new weapons that Lin taught her. The power of these weapons was more than 10 times stronger than her previous transformations. Under the powerful firepower of Baby 5, no ship could last for a minute. The weapons that Baby 5 transformed into were the bait that Lin laid here. Lin believed that the force would appear. Before the Doflamingo pirates grew stronger, that force was the ceiling of the North Sea's military power. Did Lin surrender to us? Doflamingo asked Trebol. The last time he stayed in that sea area, more than a dozen pirate groups were destroyed by him. Lin has proved his strength. Few of those bounty hunters are chasing Lin. Trebol told Doflamingo all the news about Lin. He is still in that sea area. He has been in that sea area for half a month, right? Doflamingo frowned. Lin's behavior made him a little confused. That was just an ordinary sea area. Lin stayed in that sea area for so long, he must have his own plan. Doflamingo recalled the pair of golden eyes he saw on Mignon Island. Although he only met Lin once, from that meeting Doflamingo knew that Lin was a very thoughtful person. When many people saw that Lin was just a little kid, they subconsciously thought that Lin was easy to deal with. This was a whopping 90 million Bailey. But Doflamingo knew that he was able to get such a terrifying bounty at such a young age, and he was more than the same. The adults with bounty are even more terrifying. Dover, it's just Lin, I'll go and catch him back. Aren't you planning to become one of the 7 warlords of the sea? When you become one of the 7 warlords of the sea, won't you have as many kids as Lin as you want? Diamante stood up and said to Doflamingo. As the highest cadre of the family, he had to clear all obstacles in front of Doflamingo. In Diamante's opinion, Lin's ability to injure Pica was largely due to luck. As long as he was careful enough, he would definitely be able to defeat Lin. How strong can a kid who doesn't even have hockey be? It's useless. You have no expertise in speed. Even if you can defeat Lin, you can't catch him. Doflamingo rejected Diamante's proposal. Doflamingo still remembers the extreme speed that Lin burst out when he escaped from the Mignon Island. Even the moon step of the Navy Vice Admiral was not as fast as that. Diamante is the user of the floating fruit, and he has no expertise in speed. Even if Diamante can beat Lin, he will definitely not be able to stop Lin from escaping. This is the first time that Doflamingo has seen an enemy that makes him helpless because of his speed. Let's lead a group of pirates and bounty hunters from the Grand Line. The pirates in the North Sea are a bit weak and they can't threaten Lin. Doflamingo said to Trebol. Although Doflamingo's base is in the North Sea, he has a great reputation in the dark world of the entire sea. It's just a matter of a word for him to do such a small thing. I'll go now. Trebol's dull face showed a wretched smile, and then he took out the Den Mushi and began to make arrangements. Subjugating Lin is our last thing in the North Sea. When Lin becomes the 3rd generation of Corazon, it will be time for us to march into the Grand Line. Doflamingo suddenly laughed. Dover, we will make the Don Quixote family's name resound throughout the sea. Diamante said solemnly to Doflamingo. Yes, let our family's name resound throughout the sea. Pica's eyes flashed with enthusiasm, and he followed suit. Chapter 11. Lin, there are pirates from the Grand Line here. Baby 5 picked up a broken flag and showed it to Lin. The edge of the flag had been burned, but the open wings, crossed swords and skull on the flag were still visible. Where did you get this flag? Lin's eyes narrowed. He had recognized the flag. This flag is the flag of Baroque Studio, this is the flag of Crocodile. Crocodile is entrenched in Alabasta, the first half of the Grand Line. What are his subordinates doing in the North Sea? Here, it's right there. Baby 5 pointed to a few pieces of wooden fragments. There is a guy named Mr. 7 on the ship who said he has something good to talk to us about. He ignored my warning and continued to approach. How could I let his conspiracy succeed? I will blow the ship to pieces. Baby 5's little face was full of complacency. Her chest was high, and she glanced at Lin En secretly with the corner of her eyes. Obviously, Baby 5 wanted to get Lin En's praise. Well done, BABY5. Lin En did not disappoint BABY5. He gently rubbed Baby 5's little head and praised him. Baroque is iron, but Mr. 7 is changing. Although Lin En did not hear what Mr. 7 said, he could guess that he just wanted him to join Baroque Studio. Lin En even looked down on Doflamingo, let alone Crocodile. Lin, there haven't been any pirates around here for 2 days. Should we go to another place to plunder their wealth? Baby 5 threw the flag of Baroque Studio into the sea and said to Lin. As famous pirates in the North Sea were defeated by Lin and Baby 5 one after another, the pirates and bounty hunters in the North Sea finally realized how terrible Lin was, and they no longer came to die. This is why Baby 5 attacked them as soon as she saw the ship of Baroque Studio approaching them. It was really boring for her to stay in this sea. Lin also began to doubt herself at this time. Could it be that the force was not in the North Sea now, so they had not arrived yet? Or did they not realize the value of Baby 5's transformation weapon? Wait for another 3 days. If the person I am waiting for has not come within 3 days, then we will leave. Lin said to BABY5. Lin, another ship is coming. This time, the shape of the ship is so strange, just like a snail. Baby 5's arm turned into a sniper rifle. She looked at the ship coming towards them through the scope and exclaimed. Over the years, Baby 5 has seen many ships, some wooden and some iron, but this is the first time she has seen a snail ship. Snail ship. It's finally here. Lin's eyes looked at the gradually growing black spot, and a smile appeared in his eyes. It's worth waiting here for so long, and finally it's here. These snail ships did not appear alone. More than a dozen snails united into a giant, and their moving speed was no slower than that of a pirate ship. The 3-masted ship that Lin robbed was already a medium to large ship, but his ship was not even 1/5 the size of a snail ship. These big snails rushed straight towards Lin and Baby 5, and they had no intention of slowing down at all. Baby 5 turned into a cannon and fired 2 rounds at the snail ship, but her shells hit the snail's shell and didn't even penetrate it. Room. Lin En put her hand on Baby 5's shoulder. When the snail ship crushed their ship, Lin En teleported to the snail ship with BABY5. As soon as Lin En and Baby 5 appeared on the snail ship, they were aimed at by a group of silent soldiers wearing sunglasses. Hey, are you the Lin En with a bounty of 90 million Baileys? An arrogant voice sounded, and a little devil with red hair in a red combat uniform flew in front of them. Lin En, I didn't expect that in addition to the mark armor you developed, there are actually flying equipment on this sea. Baby 5 looked at the flames under the feet of the red-haired devil, and she whispered to Lin En. Who are you? Before asking others, shouldn't you first explain your identity? Baby 5 said angrily. Just now, these guys' boat almost knocked her into the sea. If it weren't for Lin En's ability, the 2 of them would have drowned. We are the technological kingdom of Germa. The kid showed a hint of pride on his face. As the overlord of the North Sea, Germa has the capital to be proud. Germa Kingdom, isn't that a fairy tale? Stop lying here. But Baby 5 didn't believe it at all. She often heard stories about the North Sea warrior Sora fighting the enemy, and those villains were the evil Germa. The kid in front of him used fairy tales to fool himself. Did he really think he hadn't read this story? BABY5, he is right. They are really the Germa core. I have been waiting for them these days. I will use them to compete with the Doflamingo family. Lin En looked at the somewhat irritable kid opposite him, and he said to BABY5. Germa's bloodline factor technology can be used as a reference for Lin En to develop the Operation Fruit. Perhaps Lin En can improve his physique from now on. Baby 5 doesn't care about whether it is Germa or not. She just needs to make sure that the guy in front of her is an enemy. Weapon transformation, mark armor. With the sound of biting, the mark armor transformed by Baby 5 directly wrapped up Lin En completely. You are becoming more and more proficient in the application of mark armor, BABY5. Lin En felt the soft touch all over his body, and he praised BABY5. Of course, I practice every day, Baby 5 said happily. Being able to get Lin En's affirmation, she felt that her hard work in private practice was not in vain. Is this also a combat suit? You actually played with a combat suit in front of our Germa, let me Vinsmoke Ig defeat you. The kid named Ig shouted in a tone full of middle school. Ig, you seem to talk a lot. Lin En was obviously in front of Ig, but he didn't know how he appeared behind Ig. Scalpel. Lin En's hand directly stabbed Ichi's heart, and Ichi's heart was directly wrapped in a cube by Lin En and taken out. Because the heart was taken out, there was a diamond-shaped hole in Ichi's chest. Ichi looked down at his chest where his heart disappeared, and now he knew what it meant to feel empty in his heart. Ichi wanted to say something cruel, but the next moment his eyes went black and he fell down. You fool, you actually killed Ichi. The next moment, a blue light and a green light came straight towards Lin En. These two should be the electric blue and green winches. Lin En looked at the two little ghosts who were rushing towards him, and he also recognized the identities of the two. These two people are quadruplets with Ig, whose heart he had ripped out before. Except for the different hair color, everything else is the same. They are the same age and strength. Ig is not his opponent in one move, and the same is true for these two. Yonji, he is behind you. Electric Blue Niji saw that Lin En, who was just in front of him, suddenly appeared behind Yonji, and he exclaimed. What? Yonji was shocked when he heard it, and the high-tech boots on his feet suddenly spurted out flames. He was ready to get rid of Lin En as quickly as possible. However, he felt that no matter how he accelerated, Lin En behind him followed him closely. Puff. As Yonji felt a pain in his chest, he felt that his heart was ripped out by Lin En. If Lin En hadn't held him with one hand, he might have turned into a meat pie when he fell from the sky. Niji, catch your brother, don't let him fall to death. Lin En threw Yonji to Niji. When Niji finally brought Yonji back to the Germa deck, a familiar popping sound appeared in his chest. Yonji's heart was also dug out by Lin En. In less than 30 seconds, the three outstanding works of Germa were defeated by Lin En, and Lin En only used the ability of the Operation Fruit 3 times. This is the horror of the Operation Fruit. When in the operation space, people who have not mastered the armament hockey are at the mercy of Lin En. Stop. King Judge of the Germa Kingdom finally appeared at this time. Like the three little ghosts defeated by Lin En, Judge was wearing the same style of yellow combat uniform. Behind Judge, a girl with pink hair and a pair of big violet eyes walked out. This girl was wearing the same style of pink combat uniform. This girl was Reiju, the sister of Niji and others. She did not prepare to attack Lin En like her father did. She came to the unconscious Niji and Yonji and put her hands on their noses. They are only temporarily unconscious, they are not dead. Reiju turned to Judge and said, "It's good that they are not dead." Judge just glanced at his sons, and then his eyes looked at the mark armor worn by Lin En. Lin En, I came to you for your armor that looks like a combat uniform. Cooperate with me. With the help of Germa, maybe we can dominate the North Sea. Judge's eyes revealed a touch of heat. Dominating the North Sea is the dream of all generations of Germa kings, and even Judge is no exception. The Shikoku incident that year made Judge experience the joy of dominating the North Sea, and he has been working towards this direction for so many years. Germa's shape memory armor was specially customized according to the direction of the bloodline factor transformation of Reiju and others. Although these combat suits can block damage and have extraordinary mobility, they cannot be mass-produced. Lin En's mark armor gave him hope of dominating the North Sea. These super soldiers developed by Judge who are not afraid of death and have superb military capabilities are all clones. These people can kill indiscriminately in the battle of the lower level, and even the Navy is not their opponent. However, facing the combat power of the Navy officer level, Germa's clone army is not enough. If Judge can let Lin En hand over the design of the mark armor to him, then Germa's last shortcoming will disappear. Lin En can defeat Pica with this armor, and he has proved the potential of this armor. Lin En's current situation of being hunted down is caused by Doflamingo, and Germa's influence in the North Sea is about to disappear, which is also because of Doflamingo. The two of them have a common enemy, and in the North Sea, only Germa has the possibility of competing with Doflamingo. Judge doesn't believe that Lin can refuse his proposal. Jage, I'm not waiting for you to become a partner with you. I'm waiting for you to recruit Germa as my subordinate. Lin looked at Jage and smiled at Jage. Jage's plan was indeed good, but he forgot one thing. If Lin can control everyone in Germa, then everything in Germa is his. Why should he be a partner with Jage? Lin, what are you talking about? Jage was so angry that he laughed. Sure enough, even if Lin behaved maturely, he was still a kid, always having unrealistic fantasies. Even a ruthless person who used his own children as weapons, I don't believe you can keep the agreement. You'd better be my subordinate. Lin imitated Buddha did not see Judge's rage, he still said calmly. Hearing Lin's words, Reiju looked at Lin with a touch of surprise. Unlike those brothers whose emotions were wiped out, Reiju still retained her emotions. It's just that she also went through genetic modification, she was set to not be able to resist her father's will, she had no choice. The scientists of the whole Germa regarded them as weapons, but they didn't expect that Lin would regard them as people. Maybe you are right, as long as I capture you, everything you have will be mine. Judge clenched the spear in his hand, and there was an electric current on the spear. This spear is also a high-tech equipment. Electromagnetic stab. Judge rushed straight towards Lin with the spear, and at this time he saw that Lin's palm suddenly lit up. Boom. Judge was blown away by Lin's palm cannon before he attacked Lin. Judge's huge body hit the Germa building, and the building made of thick stone walls was actually crushed by Judge. Ahem. Judge struggled to get up from the ruins. If it weren't for the protection of the high-tech combat suit, Lin's palm cannon would have blown him into pieces. Father, be careful. Judge hadn't recovered from the blow just now, and he suddenly heard Reiju's voice. Judge's heart tightened, and he remembered the scene of his 3 sons being ripped out of their hearts by Lin. Squeak. Judge's whole body was discharging electricity like a sea urchin. He found that Lin had disappeared. In order to prevent Lin from using that blow on him, he directly released the current stored in the combat suit. Fortunately, Lin was not behind him, which made Judge feel relieved. Puff. At the moment when Judge's current stopped, Lin teleported in front of Judge like a ghost and took out his heart directly. Maybe because of the height difference, when Lin appeared in front of Judge, Judge did not notice Lin. It was not until he felt empty in his heart that he looked down and saw the abnormality on his chest. Reiju, put away your poison. If you don't want them all to die, put away your poison. Lin turned his head and looked at Reiju. Although the toxin released by Reiju was colorless and odorless, in the operating room, Reiju's poison had no place to hide. The lives of the Germa family were all in Lin's hands, and Reiju had no choice but to take the poison back into her body. The clone soldiers of Germa were still aiming their guns at Lin, but the Vinsmoke family was defeated too quickly, and no one gave orders to the clone soldiers, and they continued in this posture. Puff. Lin's palm was taken out from Reiju's chest, and the last member of Germa was also controlled by Lin. BABY5, wake them up. Lin watched Reiju fall to the ground, and he asked BABY5 to remove the armor. Germa is only strong in high technology. Although their high technology is not inferior to the Devil Fruit ability and domineering to some extent, without domineering, it is just a random killing for the Operation Fruit. Baby 5 first patted Reiju's cheek gently to wake her up, and then she roughly poured the water in the kettle on her waist on the face of Judge and his 3 sons. Judge, from now on, I have the final say in Germa. Do you have any objection? Seeing the anger in Judge's eyes, Lin grabbed Judge's heart tightly. The next moment, Judge felt that life was worse than death, and the severe pain almost eroded his sanity. Master Lin, I will be your subordinate in the future. Judge is a scientist and a smart man. He knows what Lin wants to hear. When Judge gritted his teeth and said this, he felt that the severe pain disappeared. Very good, now take me to Germa's laboratory. I want to see if Germa is qualified to make mark armor. Lin looked at Judge and said to Judge. Judge didn't dare to play tricks at this time. He obediently took Lin and BABY5 to the core of Germa. Is this the bloodline factor? Quote. When Lin came to Germa's laboratory, His eyes were shining as he looked at the research data on the human body and genes that Germa had collected. These things are what Lin En urgently needs. If he masters these things, Lin En will definitely be able to develop the Operation Fruit faster. Lin En knew that he came to the right place. Judge, I will not always control you. When I leave the North Sea, that will be your time to be free. When Judge was about to leave the laboratory, he heard Lin En's voice. Hearing Lin En's voice, a light appeared in Judge's eyes. Judge didn't know how long Lin En would stay in the North Sea, but he knew that for a monster like Lin En, only the Grand Line was suitable for him. He wouldn't stay in the North Sea for too long. Today's meal is delicious. Isn't this the work of the replica maid? Quote. Lin En asked Judge while eating food that was dozens of times more delicious than before. The meals they had eaten before were all made by Germa's clone chefs. Those clones' meals were also delicious, but they were far from comparable to today's. Judge looked at Reiju, who had been responsible for Lin En's diet these days. It's Sanji, this is made by Sanji. Reiju said to Lin En. Sanji, is he also a clone? Why haven't I heard you, Reiju, talk about this person? Baby 5 asked Reiju. Perhaps because they are of the same age, Reiju is Baby 5's only friend here, and Baby 5 also lives and eats with Reiju. Baby 5 also knows Germa, but it's the first time he heard Sanji's name. Sanji is also my younger brother, but he hasn't awakened the bloodline factor. Quote. Because the food he cooks is delicious, I think you, Lin En and Baby5, will like it, so. Reiju explained to Lin En. How could you let that failure cook for Lin En? Hearing the name Sanji, Judge angrily interrupted Reiju. Sanji. Lin En kept repeating the name Sanji, and he remembered what happened to Sanji in Germa. Sanji was born as a mutant after his mother Sora took drugs to resist Judge's genetic modification of her sons. Sanji retained his feelings, but did not awaken his bloodline factor. Sanji should still be imprisoned in the dungeon by Judge now, he really doesn't value this son. Reiju, let me see Sanji. Lin En said to Reiju. He has been studying the bloodline factor of Germa for more than a month, and maybe he can use Sanji to try out his research results. Bring Sanji up. Quote. Judge did not dare to disobey Lin En's wishes, and soon, a child with an iron mask on his face was brought up. Compared to his strong brothers, Sanji's body seemed very thin. Due to years of malnutrition and being bullied by his brothers, Sanji's body was covered with scars. Reiju saw this and asked Sanji to cook a delicious meal for Lin En. If Sanji could get Lin En's protection, he would not be bullied by his brothers. Lin En. Sanji had already received his sister Reiju's advice, and he said respectfully to Lin En as soon as he came in. Sanji, stand here and don't move, let me see your physical condition. Lin En took off Sanji's iron mask and said to Sanji. Then I won't disturb Lin En's research. When Judge saw Sanji's face, he felt extremely disgusted and didn't want to look at it anymore. Seeing his father's attitude, Sanji's eyes flashed with sadness. Lin En, I will cooperate with you well. Sanji put away his lost mood and smiled at Lin En. Room microscope. Lin En directly used his latest developed ability. With this ability, Lin En saw Sanji's blood and internal organs through his skin. Although this ability is not observation haki, it is much more detailed than observation haki. Unlike Reiju and Ichiji who have complete bloodline factors, Sanji has similar bloodline factors, but these factors are all broken. This is also the reason why Sanji cannot awaken the bloodline factor. Only when all those bloodline factors are awakened can Sanji awaken the bloodline factor and activate the exoskeleton to become a perfect cyborg. Sanji, my meals will be left to you in the future. After Lin En checked Sanji, he said to Sanji, Master Lin En, I will definitely not let you down. Sanji was overjoyed. Not only did he no longer have to be locked up in that dark cage, he could even study cooking openly. Reiju, from now on, give Sanji the same treatment as Ichiji, Niji and others. Lin En said to Reiju. Room. Lin En opened the operation space, and then white bone spurs began to emerge from his joints. Even his fingernails could shoot finger bones like a pistol. This move of his was a real finger gun. This was what Lin En gained from studying the exoskeleton and bloodline factors of Reiju and others. This state can be achieved by controlling the rapid growth of bones in his body and controlling the shape of bones through the operation fruit. Osteoblasts, calcium synthesizing cells, and osteoblasts are all new cells controlled by Lin with the operation fruit. Compared to the bone spurs that emerge from the body, the exoskeleton that covers the entire body under the skin gives him extraordinary defense, as if he has the armed color domineering protection. This ability is a perfect match with the operation space. If there is no operation space, it will be very painful when the bones pierce the skin, and the skin will bleed. Only in the operation space, Lin will not only not feel pain, but even the skin can heal instantly after the bones fall off. Isn't this the superhuman bone fruit? Lin looked at his state and gave it a new name. In addition to his extraordinary defensive ability, Lin also fine-tuned the genes in his body. Not only did he gain extraordinary recovery ability, but his physical strength and power were more than 10 times greater than before. This effect is probably the same as if Lin had eaten the animal-type devil fruit. The bones outside Lin's body detached, and within 10 seconds of them landing, these hard bones turned into a wisp of debris. Judge, how is our armor made? Lin walked out of the laboratory and asked Judge. When he was studying the bloodline factor, he asked Baby 5 to cooperate with Judge to make Mark armor. Baby 5's armor was directly transformed by the weapon fruit. The principles of those weapon systems and power systems were unknown, and Judge had to redesign them. The black technology in this world is very powerful. Even if Judge cannot make a nuclear reactor, he has other alternatives. After several months of research, the new Mark armor has taken shape. Master Lin, the armor has taken shape. Under the guidance of Judge, Lin saw a huge Iron Man whose armor was painted in the color of Germa's military uniform. Compared with the armor transformed by Baby 5, this armor is twice as large as the whole, nearly 4 meters high. And the overall armor is much more bloated than the Mark armor. Many technologies cannot be as compact as the Mark armor, so we can only use this method to replace it. Judge explained to Lin. Lin didn't care about these small details, he directly signaled Judge to start. Judge personally put on the armor, and as flames appeared under his feet, the armor instantly broke through the roof and flew out. Seeing this, Baby 5 directly transformed into the Mark armor and took Lin with Judge to fly. Compared with the Mark armor, which can easily reach Mach speeds, the speed of Judge's armor is more than half slower. Moreover, the armor made by Judge can only fly less than 1,000 meters, and the flying altitude is more than 10 times lower than that of Mark armor. But this is the first flying weapon in the pirate world, which is of epic-making significance to this sea. Judge showed Lin the maneuverability of turning in the air. Overall, although the flexibility of this armor in the air cannot be compared with birds and flying devil fruit ability users, it can also be used in actual combat. Judge, try the weapon. Lin said to Judge. Sizzle. A violent electric current burst out from this armor, which is to prevent the strong physical skills from getting close. Then 12 rockets popped out of his shoulders. Swish, swish, swish. 12 rockets were fired at the same time, and the island chosen by Judge as the target was immediately swallowed by the explosion. This is not over yet. Judge opened his palms, and a tongue of fire more than 10 meters long emerged from his palms. Finally, 2 cold steel claws popped out from his wrists, which were used for close combat. The performance of this armor cannot be compared with the Mark armor, but if the Germa soldiers are equipped with this armor, their combat effectiveness can be increased by more than 10 times. Although it cannot pose a threat to masters who are proficient in armament hockey, this armor will kill the small fry. Lin commented on this armor. Judge, start mass production of this armor. When all the Germa troops are equipped with this armor, use the Doflamingo pirates as a battle to establish their prestige. After Lin and Judge returned to the Snail ship, he said to Judge Sade. We don't have enough money. It may take some time to mass produce. Judge said with some difficulty. As a country of war, Germa has always made money by being a mercenary. Recently, Germa has basically not been on a mission, and it takes 10 million berries to make such an armor. Germa has just paid the heavenly gold, and they don't have any extra money. No money. Borrow from the Doflamingo family. It should be a very pleasant thing to attack Doflamingo with the equipment that Doflamingo bought with the family's money. Lin said to Judge. Doflamingo let Virgo frame him as a pirate and was hunted by people from the North Sea. Lin wants to settle this account with Doflamingo. I'll go now. Hearing Lin En's idea, Judge smiled. Soon, Doflamingo got the news. What? Germa is going to use all his money to borrow 1 billion berries from us. Doflamingo was surprised by Judge's generosity when he heard the report from his subordinates. Germa is his enemy in a sense. Germa actually borrowed money from him. They are playing with fire. 1 billion is enough to pay the heavenly gold. What are they going to do with Germa borrowing so much money? Dover, should we lend it to them? Treble asked Doflamingo. Of course we should lend it to them. How can we miss such a good opportunity? Doflamingo is also envious of Germa's bloodline factor technology and clones. This is a good opportunity to get them. Tell Judge that I can lend him 500 million berries first, and he can buy the goods he needs from me with the remaining 500 million. Doflamingo ordered Treble. Half of the trade in the North Sea is controlled by the Don Quixote family. Judge's 500 million is like a transfer from one hand to the other, which is a good thing for Doflamingo. Doflamingo wants to see what big plan Germa has that requires so much money. A month later, when Doflamingo learned about Germa's plan, he regretted it. When Germa had 100 steel armors, Germa brazenly launched an attack on Doflamingo's various industries in the North Sea. At the beginning of the war, people in the North Sea thought it was just a fight between gangs. Because it did not affect their lives, they did not care. As a country established in the North Sea for hundreds of years, Germa's intelligence in the North Sea is also quite strong. Although Doflamingo's industries were not completely uprooted, at least 70% of the industries were destroyed. No one expected that this country, which has always been low-key and even regarded as a fairy tale in the North Sea, would do such a high-profile thing. All the assets and resources in the destroyed shops of Doflamingo's family became resources for the manufacture of armor in the Germa kingdom, and more armor was produced. Dover, Germa has launched an attack on us. Germa invented a strange armor. The soldiers wearing this armor have at least the destructive power of a brigadier general. Treble opened a video recording Den Den Mushi, and the image showed a bloated Iron Man swooping down from a high altitude. Just 2 rockets, and the store in the image suddenly turned into a sea of fire. Strange, why does this Iron Man look so familiar, as if I have seen him somewhere? Pica frowned when he saw this Iron Man. This is the Iron Man that Lin En transformed into when he was on Mignon Island. Germa created it with their technology. Doflamingo's forehead was bulging with veins. He had already understood that it was Lin En who was behind all this. Germa borrowed money from Doflamingo, and they used the money of Doflamingo's family to make this flying steel armor. Now they use these steel armors to attack Doflamingo's industry. This is simply spending money to fight against oneself. Lin En's operation was a revenge for his plot against him. Dover, how do you know this wasn't Judge's idea? Maybe Lin En has been controlled by Judge. Torebel said with some doubt. Lin En was just a teenager. How could he make the king and royal family of a country known for its military strength submit to him? Considering the time when Lin En disappeared at sea, he had been in Germa for less than 3 months. This kind of thing was too terrible. Torebel felt that he didn't dare to make up a story like this. If Judge, that arrogant waste, had real ability, how could he be forced to almost disappear in the North Sea by a mere pirate group like us? Doflamingo looked down on Judge at all, which was why he dared to lend so much money to Judge directly. He knew that Judge was not his opponent and that Judge could not refuse his debt at all. Thinking back to his previous confidence, Doflamingo felt slapped in the face. Fight back, and let Germa know the horror of our Doflamingo family. Doflamingo said viciously. After Doflamingo's industry was destroyed, the pirates under his command retaliated against Germa's Iron Man. What made them desperate was that their bullets could not break the defense of those Iron Men at all, and the bullets and flamethrowers of the Iron Men's palms could cause them heavy losses. This was not an opponent they could deal with. Even cadres such as Senior Pico and Gladius could only contain them one-on-one. They could not kill those Iron Warriors alone. It is well known that the terrifying thing about Germa's clone soldiers is not their individual combat capabilities. The terrifying thing about them is their fearlessness and their exquisite battlefield coordination that is like art. The result of the half-month fight between Doflamingo and Germa was just to make an inconvenient Iron Man self-destruct, and there was no other result. But Germa is different. They have killed countless pirates under Doflamingo, and they are even planning to surround Doflamingo's base in the North Sea. In the Navy headquarters, the Navy's top brass are also playing the scene of Germa's Iron Warriors fighting Doflamingo in their office. There are more than a dozen images playing at the same time, including those Iron Warriors flying in the sky, Iron Warriors spitting fire from their palms, and Iron Warriors launching rockets. Seeing this, Sengoku's face became extremely serious. "Tsuru, what do you think of these Iron Warriors of Germa?" Sengoku asked his old partner. "Sengoku, if I say that I saw this kind of flying Iron Man when I was chasing Doflamingo, would you believe it? And that Iron Man's flying speed and firepower are much faster than this. The Iron Man is more than 10 times stronger." Quote. Lieutenant General Tsuru's face was also serious, and her eyes looked at Sengoku. Sengoku was stunned. He didn't expect that this Iron Man didn't appear recently. "You mean the Iron Man who was suspected of defeating Spade Pica, the highest cadre under Doflamingo, on Mignon Island?" Quote. Sengoku recalled the battle report on Mignon Island submitted by Vice Admiral Tsuru, which seemed to have mentioned this matter. At that time, Sengoku did not take it seriously. In his opinion, perhaps Vice Admiral Tsuru and his men had made a mistake. It was just a man wearing heavy armor. Now that these Iron Men of Germa appeared, Sengoku realized that Vice Admiral Tsuru and Gion were not wrong. This Iron Man is currently the most perfect weapon on the sea. It can fly and is covered with iron armor. This is stronger than the defense of the Navy's 6-style iron blocks. Vice Admiral Tsuru began to analyze. There are very few enemies that can fly on this sea. Neither the Navy nor the world government has anti-aircraft weapons. These Iron Men of Germa are an organized flying corps. Once they launch an attack on the ground from high altitude, the people on the ground will have no choice but to passively take the beating. I have consulted Dr. Vegapunk about this Iron Man. He said that this thing could not be invented by Judge's technology. Quote. Vegapunk is very interested in this Iron Man, and he asked our Navy to send him a few for scientific research. Zongguo said to Vice Admiral Tsuru. Zongguo admired the scientist whose wisdom surpassed that of humans by 500 years. He believed that as long as you let Vegapunk see the finished product, he could let the Navy also have such a weapon. If the Navy has such a weapon, the Navy can not only greatly reduce casualties, but also quickly strike pirates on the sea. This is an epic-making weapon that can change the situation on the sea. I know, Vice Admiral Tsuru said, and she was ready to sail to the North Sea again. Germa and Doflamingo are not soft-hearted people, and Vice Admiral Tsuru cannot let them hurt civilians on the sea. Spidamiris Island. This is a famous port city in the North Sea and the headquarters of the Doflamingo family. Most of the smuggled weapons of the Doflamingo family are shipped from here and sent to all parts of the world. As the strongest pirates in the North Sea, whether they are pirates or other dark forces, they all know that this is a restricted area that they cannot touch. This also created a strange scene. Obviously, there are pirate flags here, and the entire island is full of pirates, but the public security here is the best in the North Sea. But today, the peaceful atmosphere is gone. The pirates of the Doflamingo family are fully armed and have ambushed everywhere on the island. The reason is simple. They are surrounded by hundreds of steel men of Germa. Those steel men cut off all shipping around Spidamiris Island, and the weapons of the Doflamingo family can no longer be transported out. Germa's behavior is to kill Doflamingo's family. How can Doflamingo tolerate it? If it were an ordinary country, Doflamingo would have gone to their palace to carry out the beheading activity. But this is Germa without a fixed territory. Their snail ship is their territory. Except for themselves, no one knows where they are at this time. In addition, all the members of the Germa Corps are clones, and outsiders have no chance to enter Germa. Even if Doflamingo wants to send spies, he can't do it. Boom boom boom. Thousands of meters above the sky, one after another Iron Man continuously fired rockets at Spidamiris Island from the sky, and the entire island instantly turned into a sea of fire. Germa launched a surprise attack on us. The shrill alarm sounded throughout Spidamiris Island. The pirates of Doflamingo's family wanted to attack the Iron Man of Germa with rockets, but they all escaped. On the contrary, those who launched the rockets were discovered, and they were instantly shot into sieves by the steel soldiers of Germa. This was a completely unequal battle. Germa used technological equipment to crush Doflamingo. In the lobby of the Snail ship, hundreds of live broadcast Den Mushi showed the dynamics of each steelman in front of Lin and Judge. Lord Lin, now we have surrounded Speedomaris Island. As long as Doflamingo is driven out of the North Sea, all his industries will belong to us Germa. In front of the big screen, Judge respectfully told Lin about the development of the war. Judge no longer dared to underestimate the man in front of him. He just conjured up such a set of armor, and let Germa defeat the Doflamingo pirates that dominated the North Sea. When Doflamingo leaves the North Sea, Germa will truly dominate the North Sea. Back then, Judge was able to complete the Four Kingdoms incident with the strength of Germa. Now that he has these armors, it will be even easier for him to unify the North Sea. The glory of Germa will be restored in his hands. Judge no longer has any resentment towards Lin. Even if Lin returns his heart now, he will not retaliate against Lin. This boy who looks the same age as Reiju only took 3 months to give Germa the opportunity to realize his dream. What if it is 5 years later, or even 10 years later? Judge is an ambitious man. He sees the value of investment in Lin. Now Lin has not gone to sea. As long as he goes to sea, he will soon become a big man famous in the sea. Let's go and meet Doflamingo. Lin saw that half of Speedomaris Island had been occupied, so he was ready to leave. Those Germa armored soldiers can eliminate ordinary pirates of the Doflamingo family, but they cannot threaten those cadres who have mastered the armament hockey. Lin En could only defeat ordinary cadres, he could not defeat Doflamingo. Lin En was not going to defeat Doflamingo, he just wanted to see Doflamingo. Doflamingo made him bear a bounty of 90 million Baileys to become a pirate, and Lin En also wanted to see if Doflamingo would be furious when he saw him. Now Baby 5 can turn into Mark armor without Lin En's assistance. With Baby 5's flying speed, Doflamingo can't pose any threat to Lin En. When Lin En was about to leave, he found that a huge stone giant suddenly stood up on Speedomaris Island. His palm swept across, and 3 armors instantly turned into 3 big fireballs. Spade Pica, this guy's injury recovered so quickly. Seeing the brave and messy Pica, Lin En also had a deeper understanding of the physical strength of humans in the pirate world. Back on Mignon Island, by the time he was almost fully cooked, Pica had become so powerful in just a few months. Pica's stone giant caught the Germa soldiers off guard. When the Germa soldiers reacted, they quickly raised the height to 1,000 meters. The stone giant that Pica transformed into was not that high. He could only see balls of fire coming out of his stone body. He had no way to fight back. Suddenly, the armored soldiers of Germa stopped attacking Speedomaris Island. They stood in 2 rows as if welcoming someone. A gold and red steel man appeared here. When Doflamingo saw this man, he recognized that it was Lin En. Lin En, how dare you appear in front of me? Doflamingo's voice rang out on Speedomaris Island. The next moment, a man in a pink flamingo coat appeared above the stone Pica's head. What's there to be afraid of? I'm standing in front of you. What can you do to me? Lin En said lightly. Doflamingo waved his fingers hidden in his sleeves gently, and there were threads in the sky that tied thin threads to the joints of the 2 armored bodies behind Lin En. Doflamingo just controlled the armored men to raise their arms slightly, and the 2 controlled armored men suddenly released a large amount of electric current, and Doflamingo's wires were instantly burnt. Why does this function seem to be developed to deal with my string fruit control? Doflamingo looked at the scene in front of him, and he felt a little bit helpless. Unless he attached the armed color domineering, his ability would not have any effect on these armored soldiers of Germa. I originally had no intention of being your enemy, but unfortunately you had to provoke me. I came here to tell you that since you want to play, I will play with you well. Although Lin En's voice was not loud, Doflamingo knew that Lin En was not joking with him. I never thought that a monster like you would appear in the North Sea. Doflamingo could only laugh to hide his embarrassment. The Operation Fruit was what Doflamingo was determined to obtain. When he knew that the Operation Fruit was eaten by a teenage kid, Doflamingo didn't take it seriously. It wasn't until Pica was defeated by Lin that Doflamingo realized that Lin was a terrible monster. This is why he asked Virgo to frame Lin and give him a bounty even though Lin had escaped from him. Originally, Doflamingo thought that Lin would eventually succumb to him under the pursuit of pirates and bounty hunters. Unexpectedly, Lin went directly to Germa and helped Judge develop such a powerful weapon. The rise of Germa and the decline of Doflamingo in the North Sea were all because of this boy in front of him. This kind of thing is more outrageous than a story, but it happened in front of Doflamingo. Lin didn't give Doflamingo too much time to reminisce. He directly asked the armored soldiers to start bombing here again. A shield made of white lines appeared in front of Doflamingo. The weapons of Germa's armored soldiers could not penetrate this shield with armed color domineering. Doflamingo and the top cadres could resist, but the other cadres were already unable to hold on. Doflamingo did not make any moves, and Lin En felt his body sink. The reaction of the armored soldiers around him was even worse, and they all fell to the ground. Is this Doflamingo's domineering color domineering? When Lin En saw the scene in front of him, he immediately realized that this was the domineering color domineering he had never seen before. Domineering color domineering is a kind of innate king's qualification. This ability is perfect for cleaning up the soldiers. Lin En had considered this situation a long time ago. When the soldiers were about to land, the armor exploded directly. Boom boom boom. Mushroom clouds rose from the island. Seeing this, the other Germa soldiers flew higher, and rockets rained down from the sky. Lin En showed Doflamingo what fire suppression was. Lin En, I'll wait for you in the Grand Line. Doflamingo didn't continue to attack Lin En. After he said this to Lin En, his body turned into white lines and exploded. If it were an ordinary pirate, perhaps Doflamingo would fight Lin En to the death, but Doflamingo was an outlier among pirates. He was going to the Grand Line to become one of the 7 warlords of the sea, so he couldn't waste too much manpower here. Want to escape? Lin En looked at the flamingo ship that appeared on the sea, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Doflamingo was more decisive than he thought, but if they wanted to leave the North Sea so easily, it would be too disrespectful to these armors. Doflamingo had just left Speedomirus Island when the armored warriors of Germa chased after them. Previously, because they had to defend the entire island, the Doflamingo pirates could not handle so many attacks. But just defending a pirate ship, the Doflamingo pirates can be said to be more than capable of handling it. No shells could hit Doflamingo's flamingo ship, and all those shells were blown up by the pirates of the Doflamingo pirates in midair. They could even withstand rockets fired underwater. Now the pirates of the Doflamingo pirates have shown the level of a pirate group with over 100 million members. They have clear division of labor, and with their own methods, even the bullets shot from the sky by the Germa soldiers were mostly blocked. They withstood the bombardment of the Germa soldiers until they entered the surging sea current of the upside-down mountain, and the Germa soldiers stopped chasing them. What? Germa's armor was made by Lin with the help of Germa. At the Navy headquarters, when Sengoku learned the news, his eyes were full of shock. Doflamingo is not an ordinary pirate, otherwise Sengoku would not have sent his adopted son to the Doflamingo pirates as an undercover. Such a powerful pirate group was forced to leave the North Sea by Lin, which made Sengoku feel incredible. Although Sengoku did not know Lin's exact age, judging from Lin's appearance, he was only 15 years old at most, right? A person so young can do such an exaggerated thing. Even the current pirate emperors in the New World are no more than this, right? Vice Admiral Tsuru was originally going to capture Doflamingo, but she didn't expect that as soon as she arrived in the North Sea, Doflamingo had already escaped to the Grand Line. Now that Doflamingo has left the North Sea, this may be a good thing for the North Sea. After Vice Admiral Tsuru put down the intelligence in her hand, there was some emotion in her tone. Doflamingo escaped from her hands many times, and she knew what a terrible pirate Doflamingo was. It is a blessing for the civilians of the North Sea that such pirates leave the North Sea. Even if Doflamingo leaves, the situation in the North Sea will only become more turbulent. Sengoku frowned. He was already worried about another thing. Are you talking about Germa? Vice Admiral Tsuru immediately guessed what Sengoku wanted to say. Although the Kingdom of Germa is also one of the member states of the world government, it is also a powerful country among the member states of the world. This country has a great ambition to unify the North Sea. Many years ago, the kingdoms of the North Sea united to resist the Kingdom of Germa. This generation of technology madman judge used bloodline factor technology to make the somewhat declining Germa prosperous again. It was because he met the Doflamingo family in the North Sea that they were a little low-key. Now that they have driven away the Doflamingo family by force, the next battle will probably be the battle for Germa to unify the North Sea using those mechanical armors. Compared to Doflamingo's small fights in the dark, Germa may set the entire North Sea on fire. But this is the business of the world government. Unless the world government authorizes us, we cannot intervene in the war between the world government member states. Sengoku's words confirmed Vice Admiral Tsuru's guess. If Germa is a pirate, then the Navy can protect them as soon as they attack the world government member states. But Germa is a member state of the world government, and the war between him and other member states is decided by the world government. Only when the five elders give orders to the Navy can the Navy take action against Germa. This is also one of the limitations of the Navy. They know that Germa is going to rebel, but they can't do anything. Things haven't gotten to the worst point yet. Now the world government has asked Germa to hand over the design drawings of those steel robots to Vegapunk for research. Sengoku said to Vice Admiral Tsuru. That is the guarantee for Judge to dominate the North Sea. How could he hand it over? When Vice Admiral Tsuru heard what Sengoku said, she realized that Germa would definitely go to war with the North Sea countries. Originally, Germa might have accumulated for a while, and then fought back after they had digested the harvest they had swallowed from the Doflamingo family. But once the order of the five elders came out, Germa had to either put away their ambition to dominate the North Sea, or they would immediately launch an attack on the North Sea countries. Apart from this, there was no other choice. But would the facts really be as Vice Admiral Tsuru expected? Reiju, from now on, all your connections with Judge are cut off, and Judge can no longer command you. On the operating table of Germa, Lin En smiled at Reiju lying on the operating table. This was Lin En's first bloodline factor modification operation. By adjusting the genes in Reiju's body, Lin En removed the strange gene that made Reiju unable to resist Judge's orders. I am free. Hearing Lin En's words, Reiju's eyes were full of disbelief. For so many years, she has been suffering because she could not resist Judge's orders, and now she is finally free. What do you want to do, Reiju? Lin En saw the confused girl in her eyes, and asked Reiju. I want to follow you, Lin En. Reiju looked straight at Lin En, and she finally knew what she wanted to do. She regained her freedom because of Lin En, so she would follow this man through everything. Compared to her cold father and brothers who are more like robots, Lin En and Baby 5 are obviously more like her family. If she had to choose between Germa and Lin En, she would choose Lin En. Reiju, do you want to join us? Baby 5 was surprised to hear Reiju's words. I can use poison, and I also know a little about medicine. I think I can help you. Reiju's words were a simple introduction of herself. That's amazing. I didn't expect that in addition to using poison, you also know about medicine. Baby 5's eyes showed admiration. Well, whether it's medicine or toxins, you need to understand the human body. It's just that my bloodline gene modification tends to use poison, so I have the nickname of Toxic Pink. Reiju said lightly. Then, welcome to join us, Reiju. Lin En stretched out her hand to Reiju. Please give me more advice in the future, Captain Lin En. A smile appeared in Reiju's eyes. Lord Lin, the five elders asked us to hand in the design drawings of the Mark armor. What should we do? When Lin and the other two came out of the operating room, Judge reported the latest news to Lin. Five elders, even the world government has started to covet the Mark armor. Lin did not expect that Germa's armor would catch the eye of the world government so quickly. It seems that the world government also has a sense of value. If you were asked to make the decision, what would you do? Lin looked at Judge. He wanted to hear the opinion of the King of Germa. These armors are the foundation of my Germa's strength. I will never hand them over. Before the world government deals with me, I will occupy the North Sea first, and then use the resources of the entire North Sea to build more armor to compete with the world government. Hearing Lin's question, Judge said in a deep voice. Judge has never forgotten Germa's long-cherished wish to unify the North Sea. Even if he is targeted by the world government, he will not forget to rule the North Sea first. If the world government asks the Navy admirals to take action, how can you fight against the Navy admirals? Will Germa run away in disgrace after the Navy admirals arrive? Lin En asked Judge again. Not to mention the armor that Judge can currently make, even the armor that Lin En made with BABY 5 is not a match for the Navy admirals. The Navy admirals are strong men with both mental and physical skills, and they are almost the ceiling of combat power. Facing such a monster, even if Germa has more armor, they will be useless. But this is indeed the only way. What else can we do? Judge also knows that Germa will not end well if he does this, but what else can he do? If the design drawings of the armor are handed over, with the resources controlled by the world government, they can make 10 or even 100 times more armor than Germa in a minute. If Germa wants to unify the North Sea again, there is no need for the admirals to take action. The world government can suppress them by sending a large armored force. The gap between the strength of Germa and the world government is too great. As for using this design to negotiate with the world government, it is even more impossible. Judge, have you ever thought about publishing this design to the whole ocean? Lin En looked at Judge and made a rather outrageous suggestion. Published to the whole ocean. When Judge heard this, the look in his eyes when he looked at Lin En was quite wrong. If it weren't for his heart being in Lin En's hands, perhaps Judge would have already started to call Lin En a lunatic. He didn't even want to give such a good thing to the 5 elders, and now Lin En wanted him to publish the design to the whole world. Judge, Germa is a military. What do you rely on to maintain Germa's operation? Lin asked Judge. The whole sea knows that we rely on selling weapons and selling wars, which is why we are called war experts. Although Judge didn't know why Lin asked this suddenly, he answered immediately. Before the Doflamingo family grew up, the largest arms dealer in the North Sea was actually Germa. As a scientific kingdom, Germa's weapons are much better than those of neighboring countries, and the weapons they produce are very popular. Later, Doflamingo took over all the channels for Germa to sell weapons, and Germa also tried to take them back, but unfortunately they couldn't beat the Doflamingo family, and then their business was only selling wars. Now with the help of these armors, they finally took back the channels for selling weapons from the Doflamingo family. Have you ever thought about turning those armors into part of selling weapons in addition to selling conventional weapons? Quote. Lin asked Judge, if all the countries in the North Sea are equipped with these armors, how can Germa unify the North Sea? Judge was still thinking about how to unify the North Sea. Judge, if our design drawings are made public, who do you think can make the armor according to the design drawings? Lin looked at Judge and asked him. This question involves science. Judge did not answer immediately, he pondered first. Vegapunk is one, and the revolutionary army that can compete with the world government may also be able to do so. Quote. Judge thought about it carefully and gave a cautious answer. The design of the Mark armor is a great test of the industrial base and top manufacturing capabilities, which is not something that ordinary countries can accomplish. If you think about it this way, it seems that there is not much difference between publishing the design on the sea and handing it over to the 5 elders. These armors involve a lot of technology, which is not something that ordinary countries can manufacture. Judge, before publishing the armor design, find a way to add a hidden backdoor that can control the armor. I don't want to be attacked by the armor sold by Germa himself. Lin said to Judge. Hearing Lin's words, Judge's eyes suddenly lit up. In order to prevent the Germa armor from being taken away by Doflamingo and the world government for research, Judge installed a self-destruct device on each armor. As long as the soldiers operating the armor die or are controlled and captured, Judge will immediately start the self-destruct program in the background. Those armors will immediately become a huge bomb. What Lin En has to do is to install the background control of the armor made by Germa. As long as there is a need, Lin En can make those armors self-destruct or directly control those armors to do something. In addition to self-destruction, perhaps Judge can develop cameras. Live Den Den Mushi cannot meet so many armors, and Live Den Den Mushi is a living thing, it has many limiting factors. If the whole sea is Germa's armor, then Germa may become the strongest intelligence dealer in this sea. What big news, Morgans, has to stand aside. When people on the sea accept the armor, Germa can also launch an upgraded version or a special customized version. As long as they save enough money, Germa can remotely enable high-end functions for them. Master Lin, I will study it right away. After listening to Lin's analysis, Judge's expression became excited. Remember, the self-destruction and surveillance devices must be in the most irreplaceable and expensive places of the armor. Lin looked at Judge, who was about to lead scientists to solve this problem, and he said to Judge. This move was to prevent Vegapunk. With Vegapunk's ability, he only needed to look at the design drawings and he could rub out a mecha with his hands. After all, Vegapunk's clones seemed to have much higher technological content than Mark armor. Vegapunk could even produce that kind of high technology, let alone armor. As long as the price of those self-destruction cores and surveillance cores was lower than the manufacturing cost, Lin did not believe that the world government would not purchase them from here. Germa was very low-key during this period. When the world government was almost out of patience, Germa issued a statement to the whole ocean. In order to protect the ocean from pirates, Germa announced the design drawings of the armor to the whole ocean. All countries willing to buy CA go to Germa to buy, and the printing cost is only 10,000 Baileys. Of course, if you want to buy armor, you can also go to Germa, each one only costs 99.99 million Baileys. Although this statement is short, the whole sea is boiling instantly after it is issued. The 5 elders are almost mad. Germa did not disobey their orders to hand over the design drawings of the armor to them, but Germa actually announced the drawings to the whole sea in a blink of an eye. His behavior is a provocation to the world government. Germa is going to sell armor to the whole sea. In the Navy headquarters, when Sengoku saw this statement, he immediately realized what Germa was going to do. I'm afraid this sea is going to go berserk. Vice Admiral Tsuru showed a worried look on his face. Germa is indeed a war trafficker. Once the armor is auctioned to the whole ocean, the scale and lethality of the battles in the ocean will probably be 10 or 100 times higher than before. In the face of the age of discovery, the Navy was already somewhat powerless in dealing with the increasingly rampant pirates. Once those pirates start buying armor to fight the Navy will probably suffer greater casualties. This is a crisis for the ocean, but it is also an opportunity for our Navy. In terms of resources and technology, no organization can compare to the world government, not even Germa. A sharp edge appeared in warring states' eyes at this time. The world government has more than 200 member states, and almost 90% of the world's land is under the jurisdiction of the world government. The world government can produce more armor in a day than all the forces in the world combined. The pirates only fight alone. When armor becomes popular among pirates, all officers and colonels in the Navy can already have 1 armor each. Once armor is popularized in the Navy, with the Navy's combat power, no matter what kind of enemy it is, it will be invincible. This weapon that does not require physical skills and domineering can be operated. This is the dawn of overthrowing the world government. Buy the armor design as soon as possible. This is the fire of revolution. On the White Earth Island, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon, attaches great importance to the design of the armor. He asked the captain of the Northern Army, Crow, to put down his work and go to Germa as soon as possible. There are too many strong people in the world government. If the Revolutionary Army wants to overthrow the world government, it can only lurk in the dark. If these weapons that do not require physical skills are domineering or mastered by the Revolutionary Army, then the Revolutionary Army can equalize the number of people with the world government. From this armor, Drago saw the hope of overthrowing the world government. Forces that have the ability to manufacture armor contacted Germa to buy blueprints, and those forces that have no technology but money have begun to find Germa to customize armor. Big News Morgans, King of Shipping Umit, King of Usury, and God of Fortune Lufield have each ordered more than 10 armors. Even the King of Usury is optimistic about Judge's armor, and he is ready to invest in the armor to get a share. He lacks everything, but not money. For such a thing, Lin En naturally refused. Obviously Germa has the ability and strength to eat alone, how can it easily share with others? Those countries in the North Sea are even more ruthless, and they spend almost all their money on buying armor. They know Germa's ambitions, and they want to arm them before Germa takes action against them. If they can't resist Germa, at least they can leave the North Sea under the protection of those armors. As royals, they all cherish their lives. Seeing the orders coming in like snowflakes, the entire Germa began to operate at full speed. At this time, those soldiers became workers on the production line, assembling parts one by one, and finally those parts became an armor. The cost of each of these armors is comparable to that of a warship. The armor that Germa currently has can make them rich people on the sea. There are also pirates in the North Sea who are jealous of Germa's wealth. They launched an attack on Germa's Snail ship. But before they get close to Germa's ship, they are fired upon by armored rockets. Before thousands of rockets, no pirate ship can withstand a round of bombing. Selling armor to the whole sea is a long process. Now Germa has received another order to fight with the East China Sea country Korkia. Lin En is ready to temporarily part with Germa when he arrives in the East China Sea. Everything about Germa is on the snail boat, and they can set off directly without any preparation. Germa did not follow the surging sea current of the upside-down mountain, and their giant snails actually began to climb the red soil continent directly. They want to cross the red soil continent and reach the East China Sea directly. Master Lin, today's lunch is ready. Sanji smiled at Lin when he saw Lin, Baby5 and Reiju coming to the table. This period of time is the happiest time for Sanji. No one bullies him, and he can cook the dishes he wants. Sanji, do you want to awaken the bloodline factor? While Lin was eating, he asked Sanji. The bloodline factor is known as the blueprint of life. Although Lin did not fully master the secret of the bloodline factor, with the help of the Operation Fruit, he can transform the human body to awaken the bloodline factor. Not to mention that Sanji already has the bloodline factor in his body, and he only needs to guide it. Sanji, why don't you thank Lord Lin En? As long as you can have a physique like Niji and the others, you will never be bullied by them again. Hearing that Lin En could actually help Sanji awaken his physique, Reiju's eyes showed excitement. Reiju has seen Sanji being bullied since she was a child, but she could do nothing. Now that Sanji has the opportunity to become a cyborg like Niji and the others, how can Reiju not be happy? Facing Reiju, Sanji was silent. Sanji. Reiju was stunned when she saw Sanji's expression. Originally, she thought Sanji would be very happy, but she didn't expect it to be like this. I don't want to become an emotionless machine like Niji and the others. Sanji looked up at Reiju and yelled with tears streaming down his face. I was born because Sora risked his life. If I become like that, what's the point of Sora's death? Sanji finally spoke his mind. In order to stop Judge from transforming his sons into emotionless weapons, Sora took drugs that affected her bloodline factor when she was pregnant. It was because of the sequelae of these drugs that Sora gradually became weak and then died. Sanji was the only one among the 4 brothers who was affected, so he was not liked by his father Judge. Sanji's existence proved that it was worth it for Sora to do all this. If he became like his brothers, wouldn't his mother Sora have died in vain? No matter how perfect Lin En could transform him, Sanji was unwilling. Sanji, when we get to the East China Sea, I will leave. By then, you will have to live that dark life again. Even so, you won't change your mind. Lin En asked Sanji. I'm sorry, Lord Lin En, I won't become like that. Sanji bowed deeply to Lin En, and then he ran out. Sanji. Reiju looked at Sanji who ran away crying. She felt that her gentle brother was very similar to her mother in character. Reiju, let Sanji leave Germa after we arrive in the East China Sea. The East China Sea is the weakest sea area for pirates. He should be able to live well in the East China Sea. Lin En said to Reiju. Lin En also sympathized with Sanji, but he did not take weak people on his ship. Now Sanji just wanted to be a chef. He did not have a strong heart. Now in Germa, with his blessing, Sanji was not oppressed by Judge. And because Sanji's brothers had their hearts taken out by Lin En, they did not dare to appear in the same occasion with Lin En. Even when they were eating, they asked the cloned maids to cook for them alone. Lin En was going to get off the ship in the East China Sea. Once Lin En left, Sanji's miserable life would begin again. For Sanji, life without Germa was a good life. Sanji's original fate was that Reiju let Sanji go during the expedition, and then he met the chef pirates. Maybe this is the best thing for Sanji. Reiju looked at the snail that had already climbed down to the Red Earth continent, and he was ready to let Sanji go. When the snail ship re-entered the sea, it marked that Germa had entered the East China Sea. Germa did not go to the kingdom of Corgis immediately. They came to a town with a port to start resting. In addition to resting, it was more important to see Lin off. Lin will officially leave Germa to travel in the East China Sea from tomorrow. Sanji, follow me. When Judge held a banquet for Lin, Reiju pulled Sanji, who was preparing to cook, and ran out. Where are we going, Reiju? Sanji felt he asked Reiju, feeling the great power coming from her hand. This is the port. As long as you take any ship, you can leave Germa. From now on, you are free. Reiju said to Sanji. This is Lord Lin's idea. I may not have the opportunity to meet Lord Lin. Please thank Lord Lin for me. When Sanji heard the news, the figure of Lin flashed in his mind immediately. Obviously, Lin and he had never met, but he did this for Sanji. Under Reiju's leadership, they avoided waves of patrolling Germa soldiers. Soon, they came to the exit of the Germa Snail ship. As long as they turned the last corner, Sanji could leave Germa. But when they turned that corner, a tall figure appeared in the place that was originally unguarded. Father! When Reiju saw this man, she shouted to Judge with a complicated look. Reiju, has Lord Lin helped you to remove my restraints on you? Judge looked at Reiju and Sanji, and asked Reiju. Yes, Lord Lin has mastered the bloodline factor technology very well now. Reiju replied to Judge. It is true. Although Judge had guessed it long ago, he was still shocked when he really heard it. Bloodline factor technology is his life's work. In less than half a year, Lin not only mastered the bloodline factor technology, but he could even edit and transform Judge's already transformed genes through the Operation Fruit. With such talent and the Operation Fruit, if Lin concentrated on studying biology, his technology in human body transformation might have surpassed Judge. Sanji, you are the shame of our Vinsmoke family. I have announced your death half a year ago. After you leave here, you are not allowed to say that your last name is Vinsmoke. Do you understand? Judge walked in front of Sanji and stopped. After saying these two sentences to Sanji, he also disappeared here. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.